All right, cool. Boys, you seen all ya? It is the Soca Analyst, and today I can't tell you how excited I am to be with my brethren, WildxFire, artist, musician, producer, and kind of somewhat I like to call like just like not just a creative in music, but also a creative and a cultivator of life, and someone who I've been acquainted with for over the years. He's actually watched my journey as a videographer back in like 2018, 2019 when I first started. I remember one of my first times meeting you actually was when we did the Second Wave listening party, and then I've had the privilege to hear your voice both on your own tracks but also background vocals. I've heard you live, I've heard you in studio, and I just want to say it's so great to be here today with you, bro.
Yo, man. You have no idea how excited I am too, Rich. Trust me, bro. I mean, we kind of had some talking before this, so I just wanted to come and just vibes up with you, my brother. Yeah,
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. So we're gonna be talking about a lot of stuff today. There's music, there's creativity, there's life, and I know that's a big term, but there really is a lot of stuff. I think there's a lot of knowledge that you can share from your journey over these past couple of years. So yes, let we just do the thing, man. Let we pull up.
The Soca Analyst. Caribbean culture to the world.
All right. WildxFire. So my brother, thank you again so much for being here, bro. I know you're having water. It's customary for me to do a cheers with all the guests.
Oh, cheers. Okay.
People say drink cheers and water is bad luck. I don't think that at all. Cheers, bro.
Cheers, man. I mean, this might be a first one on the show. I mean, I have my green here. I'm not sure if you have had anybody, but I'm gonna christen the vibes.
yeah, of course, bro.
Yeah, okay. No, but I'm just so happy to be here. I mean, I wanted to really link with you and just talk to you. I mean, you've had some success on this show. I think you and Gel have been able to really expose key topics and I guess issues that the community kind of get ourselves in, and right now that's pretty much what I'm really passionate about, which is I've been pretty passionate about what I like to call the emotional aspects of the music business and how it directly correlates to how we do business and how we make decisions, because I feel like we've in every creative in every art, of course, we just kind of are creators and we just want to create. However, being able to create and live in the world, I mean, of course we would have to figure out how to cultivate some type of livelihood within the creativity, within your passion. And so it's not always easy. And I feel like particularly it is something that is not easy within the music business per se. I mean, from what I have experienced. So just kind of seeing that I'm going through the experience for almost 20 years, I've said to myself, I really do love to create music. However, I love to help people, and I think I have a knack of, being able to relate or connect or speak. So therefore, what is it that I can really do? In music, I think, not that I have done everything musically. However, I think that, I don't have to do everything music. I think I can empower others to make these big sort of level ups, as well as I will level up with them, and so that's my mindset in terms of my position within this community, within this industry. And I hope to really make a big impact in that way, as well as, of course, continue the music.
Yeah. That's amazing, bro. Yeah. And I think you raise a really good point, which is you had your creativity and stuff, which has a lot of its roots in music. But I think you're trying to expand on what that creativity can do and what it can cultivate. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be locked into only music, but it can also be kind of applied to, like, you know, life and people.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I always feel like as a creative is, well, when people ask me, like, you know, if people see, like, let's say something that I create, like a video or something like that, right? And some people will ask me, or have asked me, like, hey, how did you do this, and how did you capture it like this, or how did you see? And I realized, like, you know, I could talk to people about, like, the technical and all that stuff all day, but that's not really what it is. I feel like the foundation all comes from, like, perception of something. And how do you then take the resources that you have and show that perception to the world in a way that transmits whatever you feel or perceive something to be. I know that's kind, that could be kind of confusing, but, like, let's say, like, a Soca event, for example. Let's say it's a concert. Yeah. You know, how do you take that energy of when, you know, musicians touch the stage, you know, whether it's Marshall or Kes or Patrice or any of these soca artists who transmit energy on stage and do something. How do you take it from just, like, kind of like some clips with some music to, like, I watch this and I can feel a lot of the things that I felt that day? And I think that foundation for me had to be, like, you have to feel, like, a love for it, and you have to perceive it that way. Absolutely. And I think for you, there's probably a lot that you could speak on with that, especially like when it comes to music. You know what I mean? And I'm always in awe by people like yourselves who do what you do, whether it's, like, producing or vocalizing. Because for me, it's kind of easy. I can kind of point a camera at something and I can kind of figure it out. But I feel like with music, the possibilities are just endless. And how do you choose which, like, route you're gonna go, and how do you transmit what you feel into that? And then even the layer on top of that, now, like, that's just a creative level. But then even, like, on the business side, it's like, I want to create and do these things, but will the consumer, will it resonate with them? And then there's the resources aspect and all, you know what I mean? Like, you know, there's just so much, you know.
The thing is that what I'm actually learning right now is to think less, to do more, right? I think that I'm at the point where I'm tired of thinking, bro. I'm tired of thinking. Like, I want to just do now, which is a weird what would you call it, a oxymoron maybe, or a dichotomy in a sense, right? Where it's like an oxymoron, because if you do more, you may get tired, right? But if you just kind of, so maybe thinking is like you're just chilling and you thinking. However, you will get tired of thinking. So maybe the thinking can turn into strategizing and planning and organizing, rather than thinking that everything has to be done at one time, or thinking that it has to be perfect. Bro, I've gone through this, and I just released a new vocal production course, right? I've been thinking about that for years, bro. And, like, you know, I just got the confidence to say, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna take step 1, take step 2. And it didn't happen in any time. Like, it just, you understand? So when you have the vision one, when you think, of course you have to think, but when you have the vision, you have to put it down so that you can see it here in the 3D world, and then activate. If we don't activate, that's when, of course, all of the energy is just piling up. It's like a surplus of energy. So we have to be able to get it out by, making these calculated strategies, calculated actions toward what we want to manifest, bro. And so I just feel like the best thing to do is right now is, even if you are a thinker, write down your thoughts so that you can, see it, and then you might not act on it right away. However, you will in the future. So just kind of give yourself some relief by getting it onto a paper. I think it's the same thing as when you are a writer. I can only relate with a writer right now, but when you're a writer, like, you have these melodies in your head. The best thing is to just write it down, or go on your phone and sing the melody and get it out of your head, so that it could you have more room for something else.
Yeah, so it's like taking I think that's so important, because it's like, what really struck me is when you said, like, think less and do more. There are some times when I find, like, let's say I'm doing something like technical and someone's talking to me. There, like, a lot of times I would feel like, oh my God, this person's like distracting me, I can't focus. But then, and that's what I'm like maybe editing. But it's such a funny thing about, I'll give you a funny story, bro. I play my Nintendo Switch, like, I'll play like maybe sometimes for like 6 months, and then I'll stop and not play for like a year. And then I'll pick it up one day and be like, I haven't done this in a while, let me play. And then I'll be like, yo, like, I need to play this again. And I only play one game. It's hilarious. I play Super Smash Bros. It's like, okay. It's great. And I remember, like, I would think to myself, I'm like, I'm playing, I'm like, and if I would lose, I'm like, why am I getting so angry? Like, this, it's just like my nervous system would go up so high, and I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I need to put this thing down. And then I would just not touch it for a year. But the funny story is that sometimes if I was thinking and I was playing the game and I was trying to think and calculate what the person would do next and this and that, like, I would just end up not doing so great. But then sometimes I would just be playing, like, calmly. Yeah. Like, I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend. Yeah. And I'm not even, like, I forget the game's even there. And I'm just, like, looking at what's on there. I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And, like, all of a sudden, like, I start doing, like, better. It's like my body's just reacting because I'm not thinking about what to do. It's like, like you're driving, you drive so many years, your body just instinctively slams on the brakes.
Yeah.
And I think at first, like, it's a concept that we always hear a lot in, like, meditation and yoga, and I'm I grew up on, like, a lot of anime. So even like Dragon Ball Z, that where Goku is at right now, he's got to learn this thing, Ultra Instinct, which is like your body just reacts when fighting or when doing martial arts. Like you don't actually have to think. So you could just be having a whole conversation with somebody else, and your body's just fucking just blocking moves and reacting. And I'm like, to a degree, Super sometimes, Saiyan mode. I'm like, to a degree, I'm like, I feel that sometimes, like but then there's the other times too where I'm like, I'm doing creative work, like deep creative work, where I'm like racking my brain, and I'm like, how do I tell a story, and really trying to, and then I'm like, I'm racking my brain, but then when I guess it's the same thing, because then I choose to go down a route, and I'm just like, no matter what, I'm just going to do it and stick to it. I'm not going to think about it. And then you just create it. So I think that concept of, like, thinking less and doing more is really important, because I think you're doing things without all the noise. Yeah. So that's dope.
I totally am learning of, that, like, what you're saying is just about being. It is literally about just being that of which you are. You are a great Super Mario Mash Brothers player. Like, you could play this game. Like, you know how to play this game. You know what I'm saying? You've probably been through the levels. You know what I'm saying? So why is it that you may get angry at maybe failing at something? You know what I'm saying? So why do we get angry or discouraged or distraught when certain things don't go as planned? It's because, like, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, of course, right? So the pressure will come from having to produce. Like, you have to produce as a creator. I mean, of course, if you have a service-based, business, you gotta produce, and you gotta produce in time. And you working with other people. You have to work with the energy. You have to work with the time. You have to work with a lot of things. Man, listen, like, our parents is it's if you really think about it, and you really learn, you could really learn from your parents. Not just the regular learning from the parents, like as in like them trying to discipline you to not do this, not do that, and these types of things. However, like learning from their mistakes, but being aware that it was the chances that they had to take, given the time, the generation, the time, all of these things. And then watching, like, dang, like my parents really did this shit, like, and now I have an opportunity to really do this shit and continue, or to build on that, or to even form my own legacy. You understand? So, but based on the blueprint, we could sit here and be like, my mom should have did this, my dad should have did that. It's like, could they really?
Yeah.
Could they really? And I feel like it is a real thing that we do experience the kind of residual issues and problems that our parents had, but it's a different time now, so we are able to kind of like navigate and deal with things in a different way compared to how it was in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. Now we could just go online. I want to order this, do that. Technology is amazing right now. Amazing.
It is. I mean, people say this, but it is almost like, it's like godlike technology to a degree, bro.
It is.
And it's like to a point where like we aren't even really sure how to wield this kind of this power, because you can use it for so much good, and you can also use it to also be so exploitive.
Absolutely.
And it's like an amplification of like the spectrum of being a human being,
Yeah.
The
thing is though, Rich, like the thing is though, you could use anything for good or for bad. Anything. You could use the music for good or for bad. You could use this podcast for good or for bad. You could use these lights for good or for bad. That's just how it is. That's how nature is. That's how we so being able to make the choice to utilize something how you want to, I think is the main power. Like, I personally feel like AI technology is here to help us. However, if we utilize it in a way that is haphazardly, or is in a way like we utilize it with this. First of all, we have to educate ourselves on how to use the technology. That's the main reason why we like AI is this, AI is that. Okay, well, we have to learn how to utilize the AI technology for our benefit, and then be able to say, well, judge it or whatever it is. But it's created by us through God. From God, actually. You dig? So I couldn't just watch that and say, man, AI technology is satanic, or is I'm watching it like it's straight from nature. And yeah.
No, I mean, I agree with you on that front. I mean, I don't know a lot about it, to be real. I only know like what they tell me, if that makes sense, or what I see as like a YouTube video or a headline. I do think one of the things that will be like sending humanity to the next level will be the whole like quantum computing thing, because I mean, people talk about it, but I realize the hype, and I use the word hype like very specifically, the hype that's around AI is not the same hype that's around like quantum computing. It's like kind of, if you know, you know.
Yes.
But it is such a crazy thing because, I mean, all you're really talking about is taking what a computer can currently do and amplifying that by like hundreds of thousands, if not a million. And so it's processes that used to take so much time or be resource intensive that will now be not so resource intensive, but it's not fully understood.
It's not understood as yet.
You know?
Yeah.
The concept of something existing as a 0 and a 1 at the same time does not make intuitive sense.
Yeah.
You know, because we're used to living in a world where something is this or it's that.
Yes.
And the whole concept of that, and then the weird thing about that is it's physics, but it also gets into the realm of like mysticism.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized like some of the people that I kind of have looked up to in history, whether they were scientists or artists or philosophers, but I love Nikola Tesla. I love the story of him. I love a lot of the things that he created. You know, and towards the end of his life, you know, even though he was literally like a genius scientist, he was also super into his theories ebbed on the side of like spirituality and mysticism. It wasn't just hard math and equations. It was like he kind of had to take this whole other thing, this other world into his equation.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because he just kind of spoke about that that things aren't necessarily what they seem when it comes to math and science. Like, you know, we're taught that if you look at something, then that's what it is because you see it and you perceive it. But like if I turn my head this way, like I don't actually know if this tripod is still here, but if I touch it, like the way that quantum computing work is that it exists now because I've touched it.
Your memory.
But now it's not there.
Right.
Like it's such a weird thing, you know. I can't even wrap my head around it completely, but I try to watch videos to like have people explain it in layman's terms because I'm just so curious as to like what's gonna happen, you know.
Listen, first of all, Nikola Tesla is like the spiritual version of Einstein, right? And secondly, I feel like metaphysics is spirituality. Like metaphysics is like, you know, quantum physics is just scientific in terms of like this theories, however it is like proven theories. So but only theories because of like other people who don't get it, you know what I'm saying? So like these other scientists who are like not getting it, they're trying to like disprove based on what they know, or which I don't know, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I guess everybody has their perspective, of course. Everybody, you know, sees things differently. So I guess in that regard, it does make sense. However, I think that metaphysics is the spiritual version, you know, it's spirituality, you know, in science. Nikola Tesla is somebody who, again, is that type of guy. And he was pretty much just trying to show us the correlation of like the power and the energy and how it's used really and truly, how we can use it. And then he went through his spiritual journey, of course, within the midst of it, and then going through being ridiculed and then killed for his findings. So it's like, you know, it is like the story of Jesus.
It is wild, man. I remember when I first heard about his story, I think I was probably like 17. So yeah, this was like 13 years ago, essentially. Yeah. And it's so ironic because I was still in school, but I was working like part-time at the Hall of Science, right, in Flushing.
Okay.
And I was just working as like they call them explainers, but essentially, yeah, like they have all these cool scientific exhibits and you got to explain it to the visitors.
Okay.
And I remember, like, I spoke to this one girl. I learned about it because I learned about Nikola Tesla, his whole story, because there was like a comic book about him, like an online comic book.
Yeah.
And I read the whole thing, and then I was like, this is a comic book. This can't be real. And then I looked it up, and it was like, no, it was like his actual story, but just put into a comic book form, which was so dope. It's actually the same guy who made the card game Exploding Kittens, which I think is hilarious, because I was like on his website before, like he blew the fuck up with this super fun card game.
Okay.
But anyway, I remember explaining it to this girl who worked there, and I was like, hey, do you know like Nikola Tesla? And then like everybody was like, what? Who's that? And I like tried to tell them, and I was like, he invented like the radio before Marconi. He invented, like he knew about Wi-Fi before smartphones even existed, and he had this idea that you could have free, unlimited, harnessable energy by harnessing what was called the ionosphere, which was just pretty much the electricity in like pretty much the atmosphere of the air. Like the Earth was one giant. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say battery or conductor or what it was, because I don't know. But and then like essentially he was funded by J.P. Morgan, and then they were like, oh, we can't regulate this and charge people for it. So, and then he even had this thing called like an earthquake machine, and then there's so many other things that. Scientific findings that they just had to bury, and the FBI like confiscated so much of his work, and there's so many things that we just won't know. And I'm like, damn, like imagine being alive like when, because like Tesla and Einstein were like alive like at the same time, and they I don't really know if they like try to research. I tried to research, like, did they have a relationship? Did they talk? Did they share? And I mean, I don't really know too much about it, but I'm like, what a time to have been alive, man. At the time when people were like, I didn't know if they were already trying to experiment with the atomic bomb and stuff like that, or if that came way later. But like imagine like going from like, there's a possibility to have free unlimited energy. Yeah. And there's also a possibility that we can completely annihilate this planet. Yeah. Yeah. Like, holy shit. Yeah, man.
No, they were both like they were both trying to basically prove that this type of thing has always been here. Yeah. That's what they were both trying to really prove, I think. And again, like with these two powerful guys, like, they're gonna just have these different perspectives. However, it's like Buddha and other religions. I mean, every religions, Hindu, Catholicism, whatever it is, but we all are kind of like, to that one. The thing about it is just being able to have your different views, your different perspectives, and just be yourself within that without having to mess with anybody else's perspective in a way. And come together to figure out this one finding, you know what I'm saying, for lack of a better word, of course, but come together to really figure it out. However, people just sometimes need to be separate. But how, the stuff that Nikola Tesla and Einstein like were finding was nuts. And then it didn't have social media, these types of things to distract anybody. So people 18, 19, 20, whatever age, they were just like studying this shit. And so by Einstein's age, he's like, going off.
Bro, I think about that so much.
He's
like
going off.
How just their perception and how their brain like literally was wired, and just not just them, but also people of that time. Yeah. Because, like, when you do things and are consuming things and exposing things, your brain, the neurons just rewire themselves, And I think about it, I'm like, damn, like, I wish I could, like, compare my brain to, like, someone before social media and see, like, what that looked like. Yeah. Because I always wondered, too, I'm like, did they did they just go right into it and like have the pursuit of knowledge and like that was their thing? And were they not just distracted by other things, whether it was like women
I'm
or
sure they were
partying,
distracted.
or I
I'm
figured like
sure.
everybody would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The thing is,
core things, yeah.
All right, sorry to cut you, but the thing is like there will be, I guess, even if there were less things to be distracted, it probably was like distracting. You know what I'm saying? So, but maybe there might be more things to be distracted. However, like we may have this kind of attention span, like to kind of multitask and do different things. Back then, it probably didn't multitask pretty well. So it was either you really cut shit off, or you were, you're being distracted. You know what I'm saying? So I think Einstein and Tesla were the exceptions. They were kind of like in it, and it was spirituality.
Nikola Tesla, in the comic thing that I read, which was from theoatmeal.com, he had chosen apparently to like remain like celibate for like practically like his whole life.
And you see,
I remember the comic, bro. When I read it, it made me laugh so hard because they were like, a fun fact about Nikola Tesla: not only did he speak like 7 to 9 languages, or maybe it was more, he was also celibate. And like the comic was like, it was like him working at his desk, and a girl came up to him and was like, "Do you want to mush privates?" And he's like, "Sorry, I'm trying to figure out like infinite energy." And then they drew like a little frowny face on her. I remember reading that and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I like scrolled back up, and I was like, "Yo, this is genius."
Because like listen, it's some of the greatest minds. They just really had more energy directed toward their spirituality, the science. And, when you are focused, it's really like that. Like when you focus, you either make the decision to when you focus, you focused. When you have a vision, you have to make the decision to focus and follow it, and then maybe give yourself some time to focus on something else and then come back. And I mean, I think that this is something that has maybe always been, but maybe more prevalent now, where we have these opportunities to maybe rest and go and do something else for leisure, fun, and then come back to our work, which helps us with our productivity in a way. However, the overall thing is to be focused and balanced. With these guys, like, I don't know how balanced they were, but they were definitely focused, which kind of gave them that whole like madman genius type of vibe where, and especially with all that energy building up, where they weren't kind of like giving it anything else, any type of energy. They were able to like Super Saiyan a kind of way, and then you're gonna look like a madman, you're gonna feel like a madman. However, you're very, very strong. So the celibacy thing is just something. It's a technique and a modality where you can utilize to really cultivate a lot of energy. I think that, again, being that we are where we are now, we have certain type of responsibilities as men, as people, that, we may need to kind of disperse our energy. However, if we can balance it, we're going to be good.
Oh man, yeah, that's super, super insightful. So
yeah,
tell me about, I guess, like your journey into. Yeah. I don't want to. How about this? Why don't you tell me about your journey first with music, and then tell me what set you on the path to wanting to be more spiritual in their life, or trying to use your creativity to help people. Because I think, at least for myself, I've always known you as like an awesome musician, awesome vocalist, awesome producer, and talking to you and listening to you speak, but also seeing, your vibes on social and everything, I've learned that there's so much more than just WildxFire, who's a musician. There's so much more than that, that I don't know about, that I want to know about.
Yeah.
So why don't you take me back, like, first to the beginning of, like, like the very, very beginning, like what was like your first experience with music? Was it something that you experienced here or like in the Caribbean, or what was it all for you? Did the journey?
The beginning.
The beginning.
Oh.
Yeah. Because the only reason I say that, because I know it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it's like really important to just kind of get an idea of like how music came into an artist.
Of
like
course.
What their first experience was with it. You know
course,
what I mean?
Of course.
Because at least for me, when I first got into music, not that I made music, but the first time I ever heard soca, it was at a very pivotal time when I was a kid and I didn't know who I was and where I was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't be accepted for being like a brown Guyanese person in Queens. People were afraid of me because I was like the time of 9/11 and the environment that I was in. And soca music, even though I couldn't listen to that with the other people that I was in school with, it was something I would literally just listen to privately.
Right.
And you'll never even understand, when I tell you the story, I found an iPod Touch on the floor at JFK. Not even iPod Nano on the floor in JFK. And I picked it up, and I just so happened to have soca music on it.
Wow.
And that was how I first got into soca music.
Wow.
And I was probably like 10.
Wow.
And I remember just having like this secret of like, just like I can't talk to my friends at school about it because they weren't friends and they wouldn't get it. You know?
Yeah.
So, but that's a whole tangent. So that's why I just like to hear, like, maybe there are other people who have created music that maybe have a similar story. Yeah. And maybe it wasn't that one pivotal moment. Maybe it was just something where they were like, just over time I grew to like this.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. But that's the only reason I'm curious to hear your story about it.
No, well, absolutely. I mean, okay, so the beginning, my parents are very into music. As a child, I was hearing most genres like country, R&B, reggae, dancehall, soca, calypso. My mother really loved, alternative kind of contemporary stuff. Jazz. My dad loves jazz types of things. He's into disco and funk. So I guess my musical palette was pretty diverse from early. I think in school is when I saw instruments or I was aware of instruments, and I was like, okay, I wanted to like really pick up. I think that the first one maybe had been the, I can't really remember, but maybe piano. I think piano was something that was in my school. They had a old piano. I think, messing with the piano, I was interested in that. So I think that was my first really interaction with instruments, and then it kind of just grew. I used to go to an after school program called Our Children's Foundation, and they had piano class. I went to piano class, and this is as a child. I don't remember a lot. However, I know that I did have interaction with the piano in there, and then I moved on to the flute, which was a woodwind instrument, right? And I was very fascinated about the flute and being able to, I guess, like, use the air, right? This, I don't know if this influenced my ability to sing. However, it is directly correlated, so I could probably make that correlation to that. So I would say, like, I got into singing in the choir in school, and they had singing in the after school program as well. And then I would just sing at home. I'd love to sing at home. I would get in trouble, not really in trouble for it, but my sister was just annoyed. I would sing, throughout the house all day, bang on the table, bang on anything, and just kind of just be myself musically, just kind of experiment myself, just sing. This kind of, I guess if we could kind of like fast forward a little bit, in high school is when seeing an actual band, the first time seeing the actual marching band, a concert band, and I was really fascinated by it, and I felt like that was one of the things that I had to get into right away, and so I signed up for the bands. I signed up for beginners band. And I started to learn. I wanted to learn the drums, but I felt like I was indecisive. But I felt like I wasn't like, I was fearful. So I said, you know what, let me go to something else. And I picked the bass clarinet. The bass clarinet was a good instrument to pick up. I don't know if you seen a clarinet, but it is bigger, longer, and it looks like a saxophone a little bit, but it's black. And I had a lot of fun with that, and I learned a lot about music theory, notes, and I learned a lot about music in school. This kind of helped me while home, and just kind of singing and just kind of cultivated my confidence in terms of my ability. Getting to my senior year in high school, I was able to like really get to a level of where my teacher wanted me to lead the band. So I was a drum major of my marching band. I conducted the concert band. I was in the jazz band as well. And playing instruments, however, I think I really was aware. I really started to be aware of the fact that I had these like leadership qualities. I'm gonna come back to that. So with the high school music experience, I feel like it was like a few years of really learning a lot about music theory, the instruments and these types of things. When I went to college, I signed up for music theory as a major, but I didn't stay in college, so it was just like first of all, I went to HBCU. I went to Bowie State for a semester. In Bowie State, they didn't have music, but they had other things, and then I kind of like got into that. But then I transferred to Montgomery College, which was a junior college. They had music theory, so I signed up for music theory and communications as a minor, and I really like only had like a few days there, but meeting my boy, I met this guy. His name is Bad Abbott. He's a Bulgarian. He's a white boy, tall white boy from Maryland. I was in Maryland at the time. He was into R&B. He was into soul music. He was into like just like real soulful type of things. Caribbean music as well. Let me back up a little bit, because I'm gonna go back to your point. In school though, I did have a very tough time. First of all, I was born in Harlem. I was born in America. However, the influence of the Caribbean culture, of course, was pretty prevalent in my house. And I was visiting Brooklyn, I was visiting Queens all the time. So I'm in the community. So it wasn't that hard for me to be influenced by my culture. And also, my parents were speaking to me like a Trini, like a Grenadian, and my grandparents, and I'm going and spend summers in Grenada, Trinidad, whatever it is. So I'm pretty diverse, right? However, as a child, I didn't really know how to jump back and forth in a sense. So I was I like to say I was seen as a little bit too coconut for the Americans, and then too American for the coconuts, because I would go Trinidad and it was like I was too Americanized in a way,
Bro, that is like, I've said that on past episodes. I say that all the time. It was like I was too like Caribbean or too Indian to be like white, but I was too white to be like Indian Caribbean, So that was and that's the thing that like I hear like a lot of Caribbean people say who grow, or like first generation that grew up in America. It's like they all kind of feel like they're not enough to be able to fit into either sphere.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they kind of just have to eventually like kind of like create their own if they choose to.
Yeah.
It's either they kind of like assimilate to one side or the other, or they just kind of choose.
The good thing about it is that we have a melting pot called Brooklyn. So I was frequent in Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? I was frequent in Brooklyn as a child. Like my sister loved to party. Me and my sister are 6 years apart. My sister loved to party. My mother loved to party as well. So my mother was taking me and my sister to parties as a child. So it kind of started from kind of there in terms of the the whole party aspect, and having to go to parties with my sister as an 11-year-old. Because my mom was like, yo, to go to that party, you had to take your brother. So take your brother. So going to parties, I had I was exposed to different things. So I did have a hard time. I had a pretty difficult time really finding my identity in a way. But it was something that I really, really could look back and cherish or really take of importance, and I'm now able to help others in that way, where I've had, first of all, for myself, like I had to take the time to really work on my accent, because I mean, if you hear me speaking like this, it's called a hybrid accent, right? Which I feel we all have this. But again, like I'm living in Harlem and growing up in Harlem, it was just that one thing, unless you were Spanish or whatever it may be, and you spoke Spanish. But having to be able, or being able to now like speak colloquially with the Americans and speak colloquially with the Caribbean community is something that I really take to heart. And so I'm able to help others who kind of go through that. And there's a few of us that go through that. Because I mean, even within the execution of vocals, is like it's important to be able to pronounce certain things as a Trini or as whatever background you come from, to be authentic, right? So if you're saying bacchanal, like bacchanal is not gonna really go down that way, like, so being able to really say it like a Trini, it will be relatable, and this kind of translate into kind of more of acceptance in a way, right? So I've had years of that experience to be able to be now confident in being able to speak with anybody. So and again, like I think these things intertwine with music. Music is life. So I'm really just saying this, like it's really about like life. Music that we're talking about is life. It's interchangeable. With music now, I had an opportunity to come back to New York. I started taking pictures for WildxFire, being an event photographer and stuff like that. I just wanted really a opportunity to get into the party. And then I kind of like ran with it. I think something really told me to run with it. You could fast forward. Like I kind of got these opportunities to meet a lot of promoters, a lot of people. I got this opportunity to take photos at an event in SOBs. Marshall was the headliner. I took photos for the event. I mean, I can't remember like what I was really thinking about. However, I do know that music was on my mind. So something told me as a photographer to go downstairs where is their backstage, right? Go downstairs. Stand up in the hallway and wait because somebody, maybe Marshall, is gonna come through and I'm gonna just tell him like, Marshall, I'm a writer, so and so and so. Marshall didn't come, but it was Neutron, right? Neutron was his samples man at that time, and this was like, I think this was 2008, and I just stopped him. Like, well, he passed me. I think he passed me, and then he passed back, and then I stopped and said, "Hey, bro, I'm a writer, and I'm into music. I can't exactly remember what I said to him, but I asked him for his contact. No, I just pretty much explained myself or who I was, and then he asked me. He said, "You have a contact," and then we exchanged contacts at that time. Fast forward. He invited me, this was around Labor Day time, he invited me after Labor Day to his studio. It was me, him, I don't know if you know Darnella Simmons. Darnella, it was Kevon Carter, his brother, and Spence, and Naki to it, right? And we had this kind of like writers link up because we were all good writers at that time. This was like before really like GBM and these types of things, right? I think I like to say like we were like the first GBM. But it was just this, I think it was different for me being able to be invited to like, sit amongst like these other writers and then like, work with the guy at Neutron. Like, I was like, wow, like this is happening, he and I like we had like a sort of close relationship, like music wise. It was just like we bounced off ideas like crazy, and I think I was just really young, really imaginative, and I had this type of style singing, and he was able to take that same, because he had a similar style, R&B fusion type of style. He was able to take that and really help me with making it Caribbean, right? Because again, like I had this a little bit of a difficult time really trying to find that balance in terms of the Caribbean and the American type of style. So he and I really wrote a lot of songs. I got the attention of Marshall when Neutron and I wrote this song called Really Hot. He was like, yo, I want you to write this song. I want you to write a song. I want you to sing like Drake. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. But he had the vision really. Like he knew how to make it happen. I was just like, really learning. So he was like, yeah, like I want you to sing like this. And we just like were writing the song. I wrote the song, came back to him. He taught me how to kind of like make sense of it. And then we recorded it. Marshall now, well, he was playing a few songs from Marshall and he bucked up on that Really Hot song. And Marshall was like, yo, what's this? And he told Marshall, there's WildxFire, this song was really hot and this, that. And he's like, yeah, Marshall was like, yeah, I want to do something like this. So I was able to meet Marshall in the studio, work with him. He was like, just giving me some pointers, and we did a few things together within a time. Really Hot came out on the 34th album, and that to me was like it was a really great thing for like just simplified. However, I didn't know how to really capitalize off of me working with the biggest soca star in the world at the time, right? But I got the experience. I even got the experience of writing So High AOA, for him and with him. I got the experience of going to Barbados with him, Corwin, Farmer, working with Red Boys at that time. It was amazing for a kid at my age to be working with that man and doing so much things. I feel like it wasn't as common as it is now, where younger writers and producers are working with the bigs early on. I think I was one of the youngest. I would think I was the youngest at the time writer. So just the experience with Marshall now, it gave me it gave me a lot of experience. Of course, it gave me a lot of discipline. In Marshall, he doesn't really play. Neutron don't play either. And then it gave me some attention from other producers, other writers, to kind of want me to write with them and help them with their stuff. But I did have a pretty long stint of like doing a lot of things for free, being in other people's studios and working in other people's studios for free. And but it gave me experience to learn how to engineer. It gave me experience to learn how to to sort of enhance, to be able to enhance my music. And I think the experience of just going through all of that and I've worked with pretty much the majority of the soca industry, has now like gotten me to this point of and being able to like release my own songs as an artist as well. Like I've had a lot of music for myself, but being an artist also was a difficult thing because of maybe lack of confidence or lack of help and all sorts of things. And then I was split between me wanting to be a writer or producer and me wanting to be in front of the camera or being the front runner. So but I just wanted to sing. That's all I knew. However, I was very comfortable in the background doing things as a producer, but I was always being pushed, in the forefront, sing and put out music and perform. And so I think that I did cultivate a love for being an artist. However, right now I'm at this point where I'm just aware of my musical abilities, and I'm now like going through the experience of the industry. I've just kind of decided to just take a stand now and be able to help other artists develop themselves. I feel like I know what it would take, and so now I'm at the point of being able to help other artists develop their musical talents, as well as navigate through the industry's maze, so to speak. And so that, I try to really like kind of condense things in a way, you know what I'm saying? But it's right now at this point for me in my musical career, like I feel like I'm at a point of just want to create. Just want to create. If I sing, if I put out music, I'm okay with that. If I don't, I'm okay with that as well. However, I know that I have this sort of position where I'm able to relate to everyone. So now I feel like this is some type of power that I need to really like own in on now. And just kind of like being tied down to one thing may not be conducive to progress. It just has to be where you know, in it, just in it, and doing 100% in everything, you know.
Yeah, no, that's an incredible story, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like what a journey that is. Yeah, and as we were talking, there was just so much that I was like, wow, like there's so much that I could relate to as well, and I think that is, that's not something that I think that a lot of people actually are conscious about, of like going through something and then being able as a creative to relate to other creatives. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to do music per se, but I think you're right that there is a lot of power, and there is like a lot of there are a lot of things that can be done by being able to just like connect with people, because I feel like at the end of the day that's part of the reason that everybody does everything, is like to be able to connect, right? People create music to connect with an audience or share something, right? Even if it's something as cutthroat as, you know, business, at the end of the day they need to create stuff that still connects to the consumer. You know what I mean? Like so yeah, no, that's
why I say is like, there's this emotional aspect to it that really people would have to be aware of when making their decisions and doing. I just like to point out there are a lot of decisions and business and really some great things that could have happened if men had their head on. You understand? It's currently happening right now. It's been happening, and I mean I can only speak for my community because I've been in it. But it's like there's a lot of shit that could have happened or that can happen if men really would just like look at it from a different perspective, you know? So I think that there is like this space for us to not only talk about it, but start making these changes, right? The thing about it is that it's not something that is necessarily a collective thing.
Right.
It will have to be one by one, like from self. So it's like being able to see what we really doing here from a different perspective. It will benefit our community when now you start to put things into place based on how you see it benefiting the whole, but it benefits you too, because now you on a righteous level where you ain't trying to rob nobody, you ain't trying to steal, you ain't on no, you know what I'm saying, negativity. So what are you about? You're about love. And it's only you. All you want to do is just work. You want to just create. You just want to do your thing. You want to make money. So as like going through what you've gone through, how it is to be in a position where maybe you know how it is to be in a position as someone who's now starting out that needs that help, and then you like, yo, damn, I'm just gonna call Rich. I have this project I wanna do, and I need a photographer. How much? Now, from my perspective as the person who was asking, I'm like, how much? And I'm like, dang, Rich, you're gonna be like 500, and damn, how much money do I got? And this, that, like, So I'm like, hopefully he's gonna like, know my story or something like that. This is an emotional thinking, because you go into like this uncertainty that fosters like this kind of like fear. Now you already overcame the actual call, but it's like the driving force is like this kind of fearful, like, way, rather than it just being like, okay, like you just want to get information. If you cannot afford Rich right now, just take that information, put it to the side, keep going, find out, build relationships, build your experience. Maybe you will get seen by you maybe taking the initiative to maybe do something yourself where, I feel like our artists have not necessarily gone through the necessary development or the necessary, they've gone through the experience, or some of them gone through the experience, but based off of like now coming in and having to like swim, like you get thrown into the ocean and now you have to swim. So like, yeah, people they know how to swim, so but however, being able to navigate to get to a destination now is like something totally different. And we've just gone through these years of not really having a GPS, like just doing thing, and if you make it, if you're boss, but it's like this, the formula, that's not really known per se. And then the persons before us who have actually made it may not be in a position to be as forthcoming as we would like, or as they would like to, right? Because they may want to like, give some game, but it's like they were maybe scarred from experiences as well. So there's this like big type of like kerfuffle of, or this is like big like back and forth of fear, or I don't want to say fear, because I feel like that's like a general term, but I want to say there's just this big back and forth of like trying to make it and not wanting to give too much, because the lack mindset is a huge problem in our community. I wouldn't want that man to look to be rich, or look rich, or talk rich, or it's like, what is that? So it's deeper than just the music in a sense. And I feel like, again, we're at this point where if we can like really chill for a moment, educate ourselves in what it would really take to make it in a business, period. and and then what it would take to make it in, within the craft. And then collectively, the education for the people to really appreciate the art itself, soca music, and understand what it is that the artists themselves or the people who make the music go through on a daily to produce this music. Because it is a commodity, it is a product, but it's not necessarily like this product that is like lucrative or beneficial. It's more so the image that is the product, as like the song bus, or there's a big artist and I'm gonna book that artist rather than and I mean, I digress. What I'm saying is like really that there's not really much focus on the formula and how it could really benefit the whole. So I have been really thinking about like how can we really own in on a forming like really this ecosystem of like-minded individuals. And then we would be able to form an actual industry.
Yeah, no, I think that is really like the $1 million question, right? And it's something that I hear people talking about, but not enough people talking about, which is how do we take, let's say we take specifically soca music. How do we take soca music and get a collective or a community of individuals to come together and really start defining and road mapping things for the future? Because I don't know if it's like this, but the way that I at least perceive it to be from the outside is that it's like, yes, you have artists that work together and create together and will collaborate together, but I feel like there's like a couple things that are like missing. It still feels kind of like every person is kind of like in like a silo where they're just trying to figure it out on their own. And yes, they ask for help, and it's a small community, so we all know the same people and stuff. There's good relationships between people. There's drama and bacchanal between people. But I don't think that there is this framework of like what you're talking about, or like a roadmap of like, this is what's needed as like a bare bones foundation to keep this going. And at least for me, I mean, yes, I know soca music is something that's created and, it's consumed, but I always try to look at it too as something that is traditional, and it's something that started for a reason. And I think that we as Caribbean people, whether you're Trinidadian or Guyanese or Grenadian, just anybody who's just a lover of this genre and has taken the time to like understand it, I feel like we have a responsibility in some shape or form to like just not let it die. Because I feel like at its current rate, that's kind of like the direction that it's going. I'm not saying that soca music will just cease to exist, but I do think that, as with a lot of things change and things splinter and stuff. But I think there needs to be something we can all agree on and say, this is the core foundation of what this is. And we all need to objectively agree like on this truth, And that could be, and there has to be criteria like for that. Like if we're gonna say this is soca music as a genre, what is the bare minimum of what we need to do to say this is soca, and what can we establish that are like safety nets for individuals, whether they're artists or creatives, to ensure that they can kind of keep this going, right? and how do we kind of define things a little bit more, or even, and I also think too, like a big thing is like a culture of like mentorship, which I mean, I'm not an artist, so I can't say how all that works. I honestly don't know. But from the kind of people that I do speak to sometimes, it's like some of the young artists, it's like when I talk to them, it's like some of them are lucky or they formed relationships with someone that can kind of like help mentor them. But I feel like a lot of people are kind of lost, and I think a lot of what you're saying, like the mentality of lacking and the mentality of fear, stops a lot of them from really taking these leaps to be or express themselves the way that they want to express themselves in this genre. You know?
Yeah, it's like there's information out there, and there are a lot of smart individuals in our community. Like there's these like powerhouse producers and industry professionals that are in our community. So the information is there. It is just, again, like telling somebody, be brave. Okay, well, how to be brave? How do I be brave? Like, so we have to be able to explain that. Like, and the thing is, to me, I feel like soca music is the music of the future, because we have so much to learn, right? And soca to me is this ever evolving music. So it's always going to like move with the times. Always. However, it's because of like other things that maybe that we kind of holding us back, in a sense of like that kind of breakthrough, that one breakthrough. We've broken through in terms of like being able to go viral, what I'm saying? But then that like consistent viralness all across the board is what I feel like soca music is capable of. The thing about it is there just would have to be more leadership. You know what I'm saying? There are leaders, and like there's a lot of people who take on the responsibility of being managers and these types of things, but it's like everybody's pretty much like an individual, like there's no, not there's no, but there are limited, there are some houses that will be able to help, but you as an artist would need to build your experience first to be able to get into those houses, so to speak. And then now that kind of is like, well, how can I do that? Like, So again, I feel like they would need to be like this before the league kind of type of vibe, like you said, mentorship and stuff like that. I got so many ideas. Is I'm not trying to really like say anything, but there's a lot that we can do as Rich, like yourself, man. Like you have so much knowledge, King, and you have a platform, bro. This is exactly what we need. You understand? So being able to have more people like yourself, also be able to have more administrative, persons like PR and managers and marketing. This is needed, King. However, we are aware of the fact that there's some learning to do as well. So the persons that do know and that are in the community that kind of know what it is, I personally feel like we have a duty to share the wealth. Share the wealth so that it could come back to you. Like, Rich, I know that you're a person that, you've worked for free, like, or you've worked for less than what you were worth. However, we can help the situation by cultivating good business ethic, right? Like teaching each other like what it really is to like exchange business, like, you know what I'm saying? Whereas like it can be deemed disrespectful to have to ask for a discount, right? I'm a business, like you don't ask McDonald's for a discount, or you don't ask any other business for a discount. However, like based on like, maybe we may know each other, or our emotional attachment, or even like you may need the money, or I'm saying he really needs this service. There's gonna be like this kind of, it's a connect. However, it's like, are we really doing what we are worth? You know what I'm saying? Are we really like moving and how we are worth? And we have to start moving like how we are worth. And so just really being able to like teach each other in that aspect, and you as the business person too may have to like really let go of shit and just put that shit aside and just be like, nope, this is what it is. It's $500, take it or leave it. You are directly teaching a person that, you know what, I gotta get my money up right now. Or, yo, you know what, Rich makes sense, like I can't, like, you know what I'm saying, like this is consciously how we have to start like moving consciously, not just doing music and shit and then thinking like, because you my boy, like, that we always got to do things for free. It is something where we have to start circulating that love, start circulating that vibes, because you would go and buy like, $700 sneakers, but then you wouldn't, you know what I'm saying, like.
So that's a really important point, bro. I'm so glad you brought it up and you said it so so eloquently. Yeah, like I think the way that I've kind of looked at like creative work and creative business, at least on the video side, is that in the beginning I started only here. It was, and at the time I didn't know any better. It was like I picked up a camera, and similar to you when you started with Relime, like I knew that I loved soca music and I wanted to do stuff. And I saw other videographers, I saw my mentor, big up to NH Pro. I saw him doing great things in Trinidad, and I was like, yo, like he's doing that in Trinidad. There's no reason why I can't do that here, Right. And very similar things that happened to me. It was, I was extremely privileged. I got to tour with Marshall twice, and it was the same thing. Like, I was so young. The technology that existed back then, the technology that exists now did not exist at that time in 2018. And I was so new that I got the job done, but it was the same thing. I didn't have the experience and the know-how of like capitalizing on working with someone as big as him, and not just him, but some of the other artists as well, And then I had gotten to a point like probably like in COVID where I was like, you know what, like I can't just only do this. Like I can't, if I do only soca stuff, like I'm not gonna live. Like I won't be able to do this whole time. There's just no way. I can't make the money that I would need to actually live full time, And this is without me owning anything of that is very expensive. It's without me owning a home. It's without me owning a car. It's without me owning just the necessities that you would need in New York. And then it wasn't until I said, okay, like how can I still do something where I can show my culture, but something where that is still perceived of a value.
Right.
And then that was when, even though I didn't really want to, and even right now when I talk, it's not something that I really want to do all the time, but that's when I was like, all right, I can do wedding videos because I have an affinity of the cultural aspect of it, because this is a tradition that's carried down, you know? And I saw what was happening outside. Like, I saw what was happening on the West Coast in the very wealthy, like, Punjabi Sikh markets and stuff. And I didn't want to be an Indian wedding videographer. I am specifically now, even though I don't like labeling myself as this because I've done other things, but the marketing on the page and what it's niched down into, at least as The World is Rich Productions for now on Instagram, is like the Indo-Caribbean wedding videographer, right? That serves people between the ages of 25 to 35. That is what that is, right? And I have a special like love for that because it still has elements of like tradition in terms of like there's Indian music, there's Tassa, but then there's also all the aspects of being Caribbean. There's soca music, there's chutney soca music, there's reggae, there's dancehall. And how do you take all of that as a celebration and tell a story for people in our own community? And that for me is like the one thing that keeps me wanting to keep doing that. But when I looked at it and I was like, in terms of business, what would I have to do to just like, if I had to just choose something that I didn't have an attachment to, where I wanted to make money, then it's like corporate. And corporate is like this road where you don't just start doing it. You have to like build trust. And I'm still on that journey now where, you know, I've been blessed to do some really big corporate jobs. I got lucky. Like literally that's all it was. I got lucky through like word of mouth. Yeah. And then, you know, then there are other jobs where I'll have to do where it'll just be like very small. Or then there are other jobs where I will like just do it for free, just in the hopes that it will lead to maybe like longevity and stability. So like on the business side of things, like when somebody comes to me from the community saying, hey, Rich, I want to book you, but it's out of my budget, versus a corporate that comes to me and say, hey, Rich, we want to book you, but it's out of our budget. That emotional aspect for me will lean more towards the person from the community. Like once they say that like they're a Caribbean person from Queens or Brooklyn, in my brain, I will already kind of be like, oh, damn, like, well, right. Shit, right. Like, you know, oh, okay, oh, you know this person? Oh, yeah, I know this person too. Like, all right, tell me what you're working with, and let me see if I can figure something out. Yeah. Which I will admittedly, like, what I've tried to do instead of just being, sometimes there are many times I'll be like, I'm sorry, no, like I can't meet you there. You know, as much as I would love to, I don't have the resources and the capacity to be able to deliver what I want to deliver at the quality of which I deliver, you know, for you. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Different people value things differently. And there are other people who will be like, hey, Rich, you know, if you're coming in at, let's say, you know, 4,000 for the day, we're working at something maybe closer to like 3. And then I'll be like, okay, well, let me sit down and see what I could do to match the scope of time and energy and things needed to still deliver. And then I will sometimes meet them at the middle. I'll be like, okay, you know what, I can't meet you at 3, but I can meet you maybe at like 35 or like a 32.50, because I feel like you have a great celebration, you have a great story, right. you seem like really fun people to work with, and it will reflect very nicely on my portfolio as well, you know? Yeah. But I think where it gets tricky and hard is when people kind of take like that for granted, you know, which is like, you know, I get it, it's business, and in business I know how it's you're supposed to capitalize, and you know, Western economics will teach you to reap as much value and extract as much value as you possibly can. So a person might say to me, hey, Rich, you know, okay, your price was 4,000, our budget is 3, but then they will take that $1,000 saving and not put it into the bank. It will be like, oh, we have an extra 1,000, like, let's just put this towards the outfit, the wedding, or let's put this towards the floors, or let's put this towards this, or let's, you know what I mean? So it's not necessarily always the case that people are taking that saved value and using it wisely, you know? So
Yeah.
that's the hard part too, that you kind of have to figure out like, well, how much do I want to work with this person?
Yeah.
And how much do they want to work with me, you know?
Yeah.
Interestingly, I would say like the times that I'm able to kind of charge my price that I want to charge is like just with complete strangers.
Right.
It's the most, and it makes sense, but it is like one of the most interesting phenomena, you know? If somebody that I do not know at all, and they were just like, hey, I just got your contact info from another person. They said you're really good.
Yeah.
What is your price? And I will say like, hey, look, this is what I can deliver for you. And this is, you know, the price of what it costs. And with that, you get all these things. And then the portfolio, the reliability, all that stuff, those are all unspoken things that nobody knows, but they will only see it like after and you know, then they'll be like, wow, like this person was on time, or they were super attentive, or they checked the list off these things, you know? So for me, it's been really like on the business side of things. It's not just a matter of what does it cost me to do the service and what can I charge on a volume basis to live. It's now I'm also trying to take into account other things like how am I in terms of like reliability? How am I in terms of attentiveness? And how do I take all these things that I know that I can deliver, but also communicate that or persuade or earn somebody's trust to know like, this is all things that I know you're not thinking about, but this is what you should think about and why you should value it. And sometimes the savings that you may get, it's not even that substantial. Sometimes it'll be like a competitor could just be maybe a $500 difference. And again, that $500, it's not like they're taking that and saving it. They're going to use it towards something else. But it really just came down to the perception of my service and what I could deliver, like for myself, maybe just wasn't communicated properly. Or maybe I did my best to communicate it to them, but they couldn't intake it. And I, you know, and I go through a lot of that, you know, and I also, as with anybody, I go through, sometimes I'll go through the whole thing of in my feelings to, they fucking booked so-and-so. Really? What the fuck is this? I wanted to do that. I was willing to do that. And then I'm like, come on, let's go get dinner. Let's go take a drink. You know what I mean? Let's just, you know, and then in those moments, I choose to surround myself with love. You know what I mean? And then the next day I'll be like, man, this is stupid, you know. You win some, you lose some, on to the next. You know, and I think that's very important, and it's hard.
It's a like you said, like a, you know, like we saying, it's you have to take into account how you feel. You have to take into account like, is it really worth it? Like, just like how somebody has to take into account, are you worth it? So it's like just the awareness of that. It's like you're gonna have to like meet people. You know what I'm saying? Now you know you are worth this value. You have this value. You yourself are only going to know how much energy you need to muster up and cultivate to be able to disperse at this point. Now, I think that there are a lot of people who, like, I think the culture right now is to really establish worth and value, and just kind of like be like, you know, really focus and don't take no finance, or, you know, just kind of like be focused on your value rather than having to meet people where they are. However, our community, where we are now, this is where we are, right? Until we expand or go outside, it would be a different story. However, this is how it may look right now. Like, I'm having to me, this is okay. However, we do need to consciously make the decisions to either want to invest in something right now. Like, you are the one that are investing in it. So there's all of this about like actually like establishing yourself as a business. You know what I'm saying? Taking the steps to be a business, to be able to benefit in a way where you can kind of like be able to have your hand in different things, where it's like, okay, well, this one is not taking too much from you. Rather, like, this is your passion, like, you know what I'm saying? But rather, you have like other things going on that's really like, you know, like fueling you, right? Which I feel like is important for every one of us right now, like to be able to focus on the passion, but however, have these ways to disperse our energy healthily. You know what I'm saying? You know, when we do get money, it's like how we invest in our own progress, our own future, you know, and how do we get the energy to even like get up and like say, you know what, I'm gonna start a business today, or you know, the confidence to say like, you know what, I'm gonna start a business today. Like, that's a big decision, right? However, now like you then making decisions to be brave, you then making decisions to now be confident about your worth, and then bring that forth in a manner where men can't say no. So it comes back to now like these intangible things, like you said, like building responsibility, building like this reliability, you know, within the industry that you are in, where like men from your community see that and be like, wow, like I really gotta like pay Rich that 5 towel. And it's okay, like, you know, but you now, if they really want to work with you, it's like you now could make the decision to say like, is this worth it for me? And then also make the decision, is it not worth it for me? And you can't like really, you know, be too, I mean, you have a heart, like, you know what I'm saying, but when you're doing business, this is what I'm talking about. There's an emotional aspect to it that you have to like really navigate.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, I guess for me, what it was is that when I started, it was like I started creating things because I was passionate about it. And it's like money is more so like a byproduct of like creating. I think I got a little lucky in a sense of like, I just happened to create things that other people saw as valuable. And I think with the way that social media was and everything, and things changing to be so like video heavy and content heavy, which I'm not always proud of, but that's a whole other like topic, I guess, on its own. And the reason I say that is because sometimes it's like when you do this kind of work, it's like there's a part of me and where it's like creating for the culture, for people, to make people happy, to make them feel a way, to give them something that is everlasting. And then there's the social media component, which is like creating for social media, for virality, and having to kind of be like, well, where do you like stand when it comes to that, and like what is the balance of that? You know, it's about
your vision.
Yeah.
It's about you. Like, it is about you. Like, it is about how comfortable you want to how you want to feel, like your artistic expression, like how you look, how you know what I'm saying, like how you presenting yourself physically and mentally, you know what I'm saying, like it's just really about you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you dealing with people, that's what they're gonna see, that's what they're gonna feel.
Mm-hmm.
So your business model is already there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about it. You just gotta be you.
Mm-hmm.
So it is about you, right? Then now you take into account, like, oh shit, like I just got the job, like, okay, shit, I gotta do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you now again. You ain't worried about them per se. Like you focused on your approach and your value.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So that you can maintain that and continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
If we continue to worry about what, I'm not saying that you can't take into consideration the consumer, because that person is who you are. This exchange, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, them worried about them.
Mm-hmm.
Them worried about them.
Mm-hmm.
So why you worry about them? You gotta be worried about you. You gotta focus on you. Like, how am I gonna meet this shit right now?
Mm-hmm.
You dig? And that's how you establish and maintain.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the thing too when it comes to I like a lot of other video people that I've spoken to, I think have this kind of thing where it's like the creating for there's things that you can create for. You can create for yourselves, you can create for the client, and then you can create for the public.
Mm-hmm.
And let's take something, and it could be corporate, it could be wedding, it could be whatever, at least on the video side. It's like on the video side, like let's say it's a wedding, there is this thing right now where people want to do things
Mm-hmm.
because they want to have a spectacle to remember,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily because they want to feel the emotions
Mm-hmm,
of
mm-hmm.
like love,
Mm-hmm,
which is a
mm-hmm.
very interesting
Mm-hmm.
time to be in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever I talk to like older people, and let's say I talk to my parents, and I'm like, I'll show them a video. I'm like, Mom, Dad, you won't believe they had this, they had that. They had, this corporate event had this artist, or I went to a wedding and it was just supposed to be something as simple as, I don't know, a Sangeet night, and they have artists, and they have people walk around in feathers and moko chumbies, and my parents are like, what the fuck, like we never had all this stuff. And then I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. And it's like, when you do some things now and it comes down to creating the final product, like you hit this threshold of like how much are you going to create for the client versus how much are you going to create for social media, because it could go viral on social media and it can then get you your next job.
Right.
And then it's now taken the equation from 1 + 1 = 2, and it's turned it into like full on like algebra and trigonometry, where it's like you're now into like x² + y² = this, because there's all these other factors now. And it's like, I feel like sometimes what happens is like my brain is just like trying to compute all these things and trying to, there's like all these voices in my head of like, no, do it like this, or no, do it like this. And I have to like really quiet down and be like, at the end of the day, what am I creating? Who am I creating it for?
Yeah.
And what can I now do after that person is taken care of, which is the most important priority, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
Then what can I do like on the advertising side for the social media hype and this and that? And even then, like a part of me is like, fuck, like I wish I didn't have to do this, because I don't like the whole foundation of it. Like I don't like that I need to like take content that I think is very valuable and boil it down to a 15-second reel just because that's what the rules are for this platform. And I kind of have to use this platform right now because those are the rules of the game for viewership right now.
What is like your just pretty much like, you know, in a nutshell, what is like your ultimate goal when it comes to like your what you're doing?
So it's hard because I feel like when I started, I didn't really have a set goal per se. It was more so I'm just doing this because I love soca music and I love, even to this day, I still can go to a concert. I can go to a Marshall show, a Kesh show, a Patrice show, any show, a Second Star show, and any artist. And I'll be like, once the vibes is there, it's like, I don't care if I'm paid to be there or not. It's just like, I want to be here and I want to create something fantastic. Because if I don't do it, nobody else will. And like, this deserves it. And that's at least how even if the artist on stage doesn't see it, that's how I perceive it. I would say now, because it's this thing of where I'm doing things in the community and I'm slowly building more into the corporate side of things. I do this right now because I love doing it, but it was also like I haven't really imagined myself doing something else. And if things were to actually be an ideal thing, it would be like I keep doing this until I don't have to.
Right.
Because I've taken the funds that I've made from this and invested into things that can fund my lifestyle, where now I only will take on the projects that I want to take on. So the end goal is really freedom. It's not to have like a multi-million-dollar video agency. It's not to be doing this for the rest of my life. It's to be doing this in the capacity that I want to do it and that I am passionate about, and not really having to say yes to everything. And what is not having to say yes to everything? To me, ultimately, it's just freedom. Yeah, it's freedom to, and you know, people have different goals. Yeah, some people are like, I want to make $1 million in revenue and I want my net profit to be like 500K. Yeah, you know, some people have it like boiled down to that. Yeah. I would say for myself, I don't have it in like concrete numbers yet, but I do know for now that the thing that I think would make me feel most fulfilled and most happiest is like when I can work on the things that I really am passionate about, and I don't have to stress about the bills because I have other avenues or other things to support. I don't know, multi-million-dollar lifestyle or anything, but a lifestyle that is comfortable for me, you know. And I mean, as a person, I've never been like a flashy person either. Like I don't have expensive things. My camera equipment is the most expensive shit that I own. It's really funny, but there's a reason why like I could go and spend, you know, a couple $100 on a recorder and then go out and be like, man, I can't really see myself spending a couple $100 on like a Balenciaga shirt. You know, it's what do you value? You know what I mean? So for me, I would say, to long story short, my goal is to do this out of choice and desire, and not so much out of like a necessity. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You could do that right now, bro. Yeah. You could do that right now. Like you could just make the decision to just like, you know, really want to express yourself right now, and you know that the money is coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know that, and I feel like you could kind of have like some freedom in the fact that maybe the numbers aren't as concrete as they, you know, maybe you know, a corporate, you know, because maybe then you might be stuck in that, and then you wanting to get a raise at that point too now may bring other types of, you know, things into play. So now how do you make that happen? You gotta come with your A game again. So it's like, it's always levels to the shit, right? it's like you free right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? We free right now. We just gotta just like focus on the passion itself. Like focus on the art, the craft, and we gonna get the money. Like the money is there. But how can you I mean, it's just about really taking what you love to do. And this is something I'm like really now, like, you know, just learning myself, taking what I love to do. I know I have a mission here and a purpose. I know who I am. I know what I've been through. And I know where like I desire to be. And so now it's just being that. Then taking the steps to like just grow from there. The, there's growing pains like in that. Like there's it's like now like okay, you have to make the decisions, like if it's to do this, do that, and you have to really like think to yourself, like, you know, are you really have to like stay on the positive side. You really got to stay on the positive side. You know what I'm saying? Like really like see like opportunities in everything, even that $3,000. Like what from this can I benefit from for real? Like $3,000 going blow just now. Like, but what is it that I can benefit from this situation right now? Because God put me in a situation. God yourself put this in, you know, in yourself in a situation, and it's not by like just so. So, what is it that I'm supposed to take away from this situation right now? Why am I here? Why am I here right now? And just live in the moment. Just do things like how you know how to do. And build from there. Like build business ethic from the experiences. Build like, you know, networking. Build responsibility. Build, you know, discipline. Build courage. Build, you know, all of these things that you can't really touch. You can't even touch money really. So it means like it gotta start from you first. You know?
No, that's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, King. Yeah. It's we just at a point where we just at a point where like now I feel like as a collective consciousness, like we are in a learning stage of really figuring it out. Like we know, like okay, like this shit is real now. Like so people are getting more into themselves and like learning what they really like and just navigating. Like it's real out here, right? So with that, if we could kind of like share this awareness of that and not be so pressured, then there's more freedom and more comfortability to like really do things. So like now you like, yeah, I'll do that shit. Like, you know, like you just free and you just making money. You understand what I'm saying? It's not really a scene. You just doing your thing. That's it. Freedom, happiness. That's it. We don't really have to complicate it too much more. However, we do have to build like these, like, you know, a discipline in a way to now get to like that goal. You feel me? Because it's many things that's going on. It's not just this one thing that's going on. There's many things that's going on. So however you are doing one thing, you're doing everything in a way, you know? So if your family life, your friendship life, your music life, your photography life, everything is connected. So really like taking time to self to build like a like I say like being able to put 100% into everything. Like you could be able to have 500%, you know what I'm saying? Like these 5 things, I'm putting 100% into it. You just gotta focus and then focus and then focus and then focus, you know? So yeah, just like really building that for myself. Music, man, music for me has just really like given me experience. The music industry has really given me experience, and I'm just so happy to like have gone through like those experiences. I feel like at this level now I'm able to like see it from a different perspective, give thanks for the experiences, and now move on to other things that will fulfill my soul in a way, because I can't really stay in an environment that is not conducive to freedom. Yeah. So it's really about like you. Yeah.
What would you say, I guess, are like, well, how what would be like an environment for you where that is conducive to like having that freedom? Like, whether it was music or just anything in general.
Yeah.
What would you say are like the pillars of that, or like the cores of that, or just the characteristic or the things that are similar? Like, what are those things for you?
For me,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, for me, it's being around other like-minded individuals. Just being into life. I don't want to say like spirituality because like it's overused. However, it's like just being into life, being into the same things as I am into, and just always, having the motivation to grow. We can motivate each other. We build with each other. We get money with each other. Just be able to create, do big things, build a legacy, be in my just creative flow. And how do I think another environment is like a kind of like an internal environment that I really like have been in, really been able to cultivate within, which is that confidence I'm gonna need to really be amongst these great people, these other great people. I can't be the same person as before, and I can't act like how I was before. I have to really step up to the plate. So my environment is just that, like, yeah, that's just the environment that I like to be in, which is conducive to progress. Then I'm also aware of the fact that like I'm in another environment where I'm teaching, like I'm teaching. So the other environment, the first environment is where, we kind of like on the same level, or I can learn from them, or, what I'm saying? But now this environment I'm in is like I have knowledge and I could teach, and be able to speak and say, yo, this is how you do things. And so I love to be in those two environments. I just try to balance myself as much as possible, because you can learn from both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I there was this book that I read called the E-Myth, which I thought was very cool because it kind of gave like these three archetypes of like what you do when you're someone that has like a business and stuff. And there's like I forgot what I think it's like the owner, the manager, and then the technician. And it's like, you know, I think for a lot of people who are like me, that are like people who are creatives that see things and film things and do things, and whether it's myself or someone who's a baker or, you know, a chef or anything like that, it's like those of us who have like done like the work, you know, like we get very like consumed like by that work. And the concept of it was that in us doing that work, it's like not always it doesn't necessarily translate to the growth of business. So they were saying like one of the things that, you know, if you're someone who is like, you know, they would like, I would be classified as like a technician. And like when I was like thinking about all the characters, I was like, these are all the things that make sense. It's like someone who like enjoys the deep work aspect of it, someone who enjoys like the final, like the seeing the fulfillment of the final thing. And then the thing with technicians is like they actually get some of the most fulfillment in their life like by teaching. And I've only ever like kind of like taught just a handful of my life of like showing someone this is how I do everything. And I've done it like maybe one or two times, but I remember there was one time like I just randomly I got like invited to like talk at a high school, just because they had a video program, and they were just calling companies on Google, and like a lot of them, everybody told them no, and I was like, yeah, no, I'll come, no problem. I've never done this before. I'm like, cool, let's go and see what's up with this. So I remember just like talking to like these like high school kids and saying, and it was so interesting because most of them were not going to go into the realm of event video. Most of them were going to go into broadcasting, which is cool. But I told them, I was like, you know, I know like the way that things are geared, and you know, you guys, that school had all the facilities, bro. They had like the whole control room, like of what you would see at like a news station or a broadcast. It was, they had really dope shit. I remember talking to them and just being like, leaving and stuff and being like, wow, like, this was actually one of the most fulfilling experiences I've had. And I've only spoke to them for like 10, 15 minutes. And then I was on a call, like, you know, there's a guy that I work with now. He was a college kid. He reached out to me, and he was just reaching out to random companies. I'm like, yeah, no, come, I'll hire you. I'll bring you to events and I'll show you how to do what I do. And it was the same thing. I like taught him for maybe like 10, 15 minutes. And I was like, wow, like, this is exactly like what this book was talking about. And it's like, it's all those things are fulfilling.
The box that I gave you.
Yeah.
Upstairs.
Okay. All right. No stress.
I saw the camera.
That's not one order the battery. It's all right. That's no problem.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I learned like all those things as a technician are awesome, but it's not necessarily the things that like will grow a business per se. I mean, you could create things, other people could see it and be like, this is dope, and you can get more customers, and like, but like your time isn't devoted to like growing that thing. You know what I mean? Your time is devoted to like creating, you know? So it was just talking about like how essentially you kind of need these two other roles to come in, like owner and manager to manage all the technicians, to give them tasks, because a technician like without a task like does not have like meaning. It's really hard to find a sense of meaning if they can't keep cultivating and keep making and keep doing. And managers, they get the fulfillment by being like, oh yeah, I can bring all this together. And then the owner is just responsible for just keeping that whole system alive. So I was like, so I'd like kind of talk to people about that, and I'm always curious to hear people's like thoughts on that. And it's like, you know, if people agree with that model, or if they disagree, and then too, it's like if they do agree, it's like, how do you then now move from like technician to owner? Or if you don't want to move from technician to owner, how do you just be technician but then find people to fulfill those other two aspects of, if it is those three things that would keep this thing growing and healthy and alive, and people in their roles being happy, you know?
The thing about it is that you're always going to be owner.
Yeah.
That's it. Because if you just want to be the technician, run yourself. Like you basically making your decisions. And then maybe if you want somebody to manage you, you hire somebody to manage you. You want somebody to, you know what I'm saying? You are the owner still, but you want to stay as the technician because you love to do technician shit. But you are still the owner. So, but the thing is, like, you always get in the training. You still get in the training as a technician, a manager, and an owner. You know, just the experience. It's now your decision now to want to give information to others to tell them how to do it. And you realize that this may be a lucrative option for me too, based on the fulfillment, the opportunities, and the money. So it's like, why wouldn't you? Like, you have the time. Maybe you might, you know what I'm saying? Like, you might have the time. You don't have to do it every day unless you want to, though. If you want to be the technician and you just want to chill, whatever, but then maybe you see, well, yo, maybe I can make a little 1,000 extra right now because I can do coaching on the side right now. That's it. Like, you're just free to do that. Like, but it's like, it's not as complicated as you may think, you know? So being able to say, okay, however, it's like, the mindset of still being able to, like, share knowledge has to be maintained, though. You know, because if you're just doing it for the money, it's going to disappoint you. Therefore, it's still fulfillment, and you know what I'm saying? It's still fulfillment. So you fulfilling your happiness by just providing different opportunities for yourself, and also, like, essentially providing opportunities for others, right? And so there's this energetic exchange that, you know what I'm saying, like, everybody pretty much bounces back off, you know, off of each other. There just has to be an establishment of also, like, a value to between each other, like, you know, establishment of relationship. So how am I able to really present myself as a professional to the consumer, but then again, like, for me, maintain, like, my sanity, maintain my creativity, maintain my poise, my grace, and, you know, my confidence to do this. And so it's just that, you know. It's just that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think finding that balance is very much key. So how did you go down, or how did you find the path for yourself of whatever you want to call it, whether it's like your spirituality or just becoming a lot more conscious or of yourself, or becoming a lot more intentional? Like, when did that, like, kind of switch from, like, you know, this is who I am, I'm making music, to now it's like, no, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper and, like, try to figure out, like, when did that happen? Like, what was that journey like for you?
This happened in a sense, I would say really when I started like to really realize, I think was in 2016, 17. And a lot of things were changing at that time. A lot of things were happening. It was just off, right? But I didn't realize like what was really going on. Anyway, like, but I would say like that time like is when I really started to like really realize like something is going on here. Then I think over like we like to say, the pandemic time, like, that time was a pivotal time for the world, of course. For me, it was a time of just awareness of myself, awareness of my physical body, my my talents, my abilities, just like I feel like over like 4 years was that time for me to really like, get to this point, and it's like, it was a a a a, a, a time of just really like just I mean it's just a time of really transformation, King. Transformation, being that the experiences that I went through, even in that time, like I was I was one of the only persons really going around, being a mobile studio in a way, like, I'll record you and men saying, yeah, all right, well, come. I'm traveling still, during the pandemic. I'm still doing things. However, I was still going through this experience of, kind of selling myself short, right? Based on me either really wanting the opportunity or really wanting the money, right? And so I've had like these experiences that I've gone through based on those two, like that mindset. And I think that over maybe the past year now, and this is like, gotta remember, like, this is a lifetime type of thing. But now becoming aware of yourself, now it could just happen just like that. But then now you have to take time to like, really like come into yourself and like really figure out like, oh, this is how it is, So, for over the past year, it's just like really like building confidence for myself and really figuring out who I really am and what I really want here, in this life. What am I really doing here? What is my purpose? What's my mission here? And just really becoming comfortable with myself. And that's been pretty challenging though. Like, it's not just like buckling down and, but it is like these waves of like being in it and not being in it, being in it, not being in it, being in it, not being in it. However, though, I'm aware of the experience, so therefore I feel like based on my passion and based on my purpose, I'm able to put that into effect by helping others navigate through their own journeys. Right? This in turn is me fulfilling myself too. So I'm willing to do these things. Like, I'm willing to talk to people. I'm willing to people say fire, like, man, I really want to get this project done. I might not have the money right now. What can I do this? And okay, but now I'm conscious of what it is that I'm gaining from the situation, so I can make, like, based on my experience now, I can make these like power moves and like really establish my worth. So now that person knows that the next time, this is how it is. So like, you working with me now, it's like you really gotta come with this value yourself too. Now it still may not be like this money type of thing, but there might be another type of value that person can bring to the table. So you now gotta be aware of that, so that you taking it all, like you taking it all in, like, you know. But how are you gonna supplement back the energy in a way, like, too, on the other side, right? But it's all connected. It's all connected, King. So me being aware of like this exchange has really helped me with, like, you know, achieving opportunities, and, you know, just really working with people, being relatable, and, you know, being able to talk to people, and, you know, all of the things that I feel like are the intangible qualities that a leader will need, because that's how I see myself. I'm not just within a community just trying to make it, or, you know, like, I see myself as an individual, like, you know, I'm leading myself. And then if I could then influence others, then there you go. And then you lead yourself too. But you made the decision to follow. That's a leader in itself. You made the decision. So there has to be an awareness of the fact that you have the power to like do anything that you want to. It's just that based on the current mindset of like what's going on around you or what's going on with you, is like how you're gonna make these decisions as a human being. You know? So for me, I'm just at the point of just like always in like what I really want in life. And then being able to establish value by providing by being forthcoming with information that I know. You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely. So I guess if you were to look at like something like soca music, for example, right? Yeah. What would you say are like some of the things based on what you've learned and what you could do? What are some of the things I guess you would like to see or offer your expertise to like change? And what things would you like to see like done, like I guess like differently, so that it could grow the way you kind of see it growing?
First of all, I feel like soca music happens to be a Caribbean style of music, which is essentially a Caribbean product, a commodity, right? Which I personally feel that the governments of like the Caribbean could take more of an interest and, you know, initiative to really put in place a way for music professionals to be able to get their music out there, or to be able to get opportunities to perform, to maybe make music, because I mean we have a lot of talented Caribbean artists in the Caribbean and in America and everywhere. But the Caribbean is where like we would say like soca is really kind of controlled from, right? So therefore, like the I would like to see more government influence. However, like let's put that aside, because I mean that's whatever. With us now, if we are aware of what you would need, like okay, as an artist that you need marketing, you need these types of things, you need help with production, writing, and these types of things, right? Now you are able to acquire this help and assistance to get certain things done. You are on a learning stage to like get things done, else you wouldn't you don't know everything, so else you would have been able to do it yourself, right? So you learn into like, but being able to, like there's a lot of us that kind of like gone through years of like going through the experiences of like having to do things ourselves. You understand what I'm saying? Like I've been in this 20 years, I had to do things myself, right? So I know like even if even if like maybe like there's this like as an artist like it maybe hadn't bust like to the potential of like, I know what it may take based on the fact that I've worked with others, or I've worked toward that. You understand? I've worked toward that, so I've known like what it would take for me to be able to like put certain things into place, or I failed at certain things, so I know how it is to fail and to get back up. And you understand? Now there are a lot of people who have the position and ability to I feel put into place these powerhouses, these houses, like these production labels, these labels, to be able to help the artists. And it takes money per se, but it really don't take too much money per se, in a sense where you can just like do one by one. But if you have an establishment, you can be able to say, okay, this is the foundation, and then I'm able to help where I can, and then you have other things going on that's able to funnel money into that business as well. So now if you grow to a point where you can sign artists for real, or you can like really like make it bigger, then that's what you do. I would like to see more of those, right? Production houses like really taking into account that there's actually talent that could be grown into like hot products and commodities, like that would translate into money. But like just being on a mindset of having to make it, would really deter people from like really taking that leadership like role, in a sense. I would like to see more of those, more just artist to artist fellowship, more artist to artist fellowship, more forthcoming, and like I said, it's not something that really takes like too much, just to be able to hear from like your favorite artists, like, and or just to meet your favorite artist in the studio, is is a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's something that really boosts your confidence, especially if the artist is able to like give you some type of, you should, that really really boosts a man's or person's morale. You understand? Or I mean their confidence, or maybe like their makes them aware of, maybe maybe I am good, or maybe this song is good enough, you know, or maybe I do need to go back into the lab and really fix this, you know. But if they didn't really have like that guidance, then they just putting out things, just thinking like, it could grow from that too, because now you will get you will get at some point you will be aware of like if it's working or not. However, like, within the community, I feel like, we could be more forthcoming with information, so I would just like to see those things, just more development, artist development, like, more concerts for real, like, concerts, like, I would like to see foundations, like foundations direct to the education of soca music. You understand? The foundations that will be able to really document our our achievements and our lives as creators and artists, and these amazing people that really really like went through it just to make music, or just to make this or whatever. Soca period, like soca everything, parties, this, whatever it has to be with soca. Document. We have to document it, understand, in a way that is going to be like informative, rather than just taking a after party recap about a party. Like it was like what really happened. That's it. Okay, like we've been through that mad times. Like, but what about like in the studio? What about behind the scenes? What about like the journey? What about like everything that has to go into the really the making of our soca culture? Like like you feel like it's just so, you just come to Carnival and it's just so. It is like really a whole thing that's going on, and people would love to expose themselves in that way as masters of mass making and masters of carpentry, to or masters of steel pan and masters of music. And my name is WildxFire. I'm one of the greatest soca producers of all time, based on my track record, based on how it's documented, based on how I'm presented as WildxFire. Not just as WildxFire on a flyer just performing and saying, and no, like we gotta really like big up ourselves in a way, and that's how it's gonna really translate. So bigging, not necessarily just the bigging up, but being aware of what it really takes, and then being able to I think we used to do that, but just now is like, I think now based on YouTube and stuff, people are more documenting certain things. But I think in terms of focusing on the historical aspect of the culture, is a main thing. Else, people are just gonna go by and we just don't remember them. So how can we establish value? Right? So we just need, I want to see more of that, see more of, yeah, just pushing of the soca culture worldwide. I mean, this is what I know. I mean, I know I've been exposed to, pretty much everything. However, I know my culture. So I know how to present myself in other cultures as well. Right? But being able to like get these more opportunities to do that rather than just waiting for the cultures to come to us, unless that is what soca really want to be, just like this, like, inclusive type of thing. But if we want to be, I mean, exclusive, but if you want to be inclusive where, we're able to, share it, then we're going to have to like expose ourselves in a proper way,
I think one of the things that I've spoken about like on a previous podcast was like the idea of like soca music. And growing up, I've always heard, like, especially as a teenager when I got into, people always saying like soca to the world, and like all this stuff. And I was always like cool with it, but then it wasn't until I started talking to my girlfriend about it, and like one or two other people, where they were like, like people always say that, but is taking soca music to the world like really the best thing like for the genre?
Mm-hmm.
Because do we lose something?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do we lose that essence of making it
Mm-hmm.
for our own people,
Mm-hmm.
for the festival? Do we lose some of the Caribbean patois? Do we lose some of the drums?
Mm-hmm.
Do we lose the brass? Like, what are the things? Can we still make soca music global and still have it maintain what we know it as?
Of course. Of course, bro. Of course, King. Like, you just gotta continue to be yourself. You can't do what they doing. You can't do what they doing. You can't go in. You can't be invited to be you and then not be you, be them. Like, you gotta be yourself. So you just always maintain the foundation. Like, what is your soca foundation? For me, I've always maintained my foundation. It's just that I know how to, you understand? I know how to flip. I know how to, balance. I know how to do this. That's my foundation. That's what soca really is. Like, soca is this balance. Like, it's just this culmination of everything anyway. It's a culmination. Soca is not. That's the thing about soca. And if we continue to see soca as just this one thing, then we're gonna just keep looking for it in a sense of like it having to be this. But it's really, it's just like it just has this interchangeable, like, this is what soca does, we doing, like soca this, that, like it could go this way, that way. I feel like the creators of soca intended that to be. Right? So we are at a point of, I feel like soca, Soca has established, you know a soca song, like you can hear a soca song, you know a soca song, like Saffron, you know a soca song, right? We just need to like be confident in the fact that that is a soca song. That is soca. What is soca? Soca is happy music. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, bro. However, not even however, you can prove this because of the way it makes people feel. And every time we try to do a soca song where like we want to put a little sadness in it, we always have to be like, but soca make me feel good. And then we keep like going back to that. Like, so that's our foundation. Rhythm, vibes, happiness. That's our foundation. Whatever else is mixed into it will take on the identity of soca. There's like, you can't get away from it. If R&B, if dancehall, soca is the dominant. Soca is the dominant. Right? So we have to start watching this and taking that into consideration, that soca is a dominant sound. But we just move in like it's just, you know, we have what it is to offer the world. They want what we have. You understand? So we have this value that we will need to be aware of and establish within each other. Because I gotta start seeing you as like shit. Like you's one of the biggest photographers right now. Like, you know, you really doing this shit. So like, you know. And then I might be as a starting out like consumer or like artist, other creative who like, you know, you would typically, you know, which is the consumer. I'm on my side like trying to build and become the greatest artist in the world too. How do we work together right now? So establishing the value is not just establishing a number. Establishing the value is not just establishing a number, bro. It's about like the whole shebang. Like how likable you are, like how you dress, how you know what I'm saying, like how you carry yourself, how smart you are, how, you know, like how relatable you are, how personable you are. This is tied into business for real. At all levels. It's like, you know, even to the top where it's like CEOs to CEOs. How you carry yourself, you gotta be the big honcho. So how you carry yourself on the boardroom is like confident. So men are respecting you now. So they know not to fuck with you. But then you respect them. You know not to fuck with them. And then it's just this too unfuckable, fuckwittable. You know what I'm saying? But if it's like this uncertainty of your value and what you have to put to the table, then it's gonna translate into, you know, undesirable outcomes. Yeah. So with us, being aware what soca music really is important. Then we can like really go for it as the happiest genre in the world and market that shit. Why are we running away from it? And I'm gonna say this too, like I had my time of cognitive dissonance in a sense, in terms of what soca music is. And I was like always too like, man, but I want to talk about this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's like, yeah, you can do it. You can. The energy is just going to take on how it has to take on. You can do it. And then just be authentic. As authentic as you are, whoever is on that same frequency, you're just going to connect.
Yeah, no, wow. That was awesome, man. Yeah, soca music as happy music and keeping it. So, because, okay, I'm glad you saw that because you know what it was? And you know what I do end up talking to people a lot about, which I'm starting to see is not necessarily the case, is that I always used to make the assumption that the reason soca music isn't embraced and busting the way it should be outside is because people don't understand what it is. People don't understand the lyrics. You can never get people to understand, something like Carnival. And I always thought that the reasons that soca music didn't grow to where it was because of the music itself. I was always like, people outside don't understand, therefore it can't grow. Because culturally it's just too different.
Yeah.
It would be like trying to get a random genre of music that exists in Japan to be like mainstream. And then one of my good friends would be like, nah, bro, like I don't think that's right, because then how do we explain how things like Afro beats or things like reggaeton or even like K-pop become these global sensations? And I think maybe like it has less to do with the music and more so to do with what's established around the music, right? Because I never thought about it as like, oh yeah, like there are these other things that exist in just the music. There's like marketing and PR and corporate sponsorships and maybe there's branches of the government that exist that are meant to push like culture like globally, and what do we really have set up for our own music? I mean, there are things, I'm not gonna say there's nothing, but there are things that exist both in the public and the private sectors, but it's like when I was talking to Adrian on one of our previous episodes, I was talking to him, and he was talking about like soca music in Guyana. And he was like, bro, he was like, it was already hard when I was making music, but then he was like, now it's like even harder to like get the sponsorships and the support and the things to kind of just do like those cultural things, So yeah, I guess my question for you is like, do you feel that there's a cultural boundary that needs to be overcome for soca music to be a popular, mainstream, recognizable genre? Or is it more so that there just needs to be more infrastructure built around it? Or is it like a little bit of both?
All of the above. All of the above. Like, but it's like, what you gotta start with? You gotta start with yourself. You know that these things are needed. Okay, like how can you provide that? For yourself first. Right? I mean, you obviously see that, all right, maybe this is not something that is available within my community right now. However, this is my music. So, well, like, what is it that I really want? How can I get this accomplished for real, and not be afraid to go forward? Because that's really be boiling down to is like you making a decision to do something to really for yourself to really get to that next level. So it's really like you talking to yourself and really like, asking yourself like what is it that you need, and actively going forward. Now, you know what I'm saying, like, the environment that we in, again, like we already stated what it is like. We know what it's like, right? So then now what you gotta do is remove yourself. Now this may be like it may not technically be physically in a sense, but it's gonna follow when your mindset is a way, you know what I'm saying, and your perspective is a certain way. So now your physical body has no choice but to follow. So being able to say, all right, you know what? Let me go on a quest to really find out what I need and then provide what I need for myself, because this shit ain't working. That's the first thing. Then being on a way to like learn how to utilize it for yourself for the time being, to really like, utilize the formula and gain success. You now know that the formula working. As you mature, as you do certain things, you network, you mature and stuff like that, like your physical body has no choice but to follow. Whereas like you now on a mental of like being an owner. You as a owner now want to get a bigger place. You want to have these like bigger clients. If you're on the engineer side, or the back end side, or if you on the front end side, you want to get these bigger shows. You want to interview. You have to be able to like really build it within self first. And it's like this element of having to like it's really energy of having to prove yourself, but really in self, like, it's you proving it to yourself, right? But when you start to get comfortable, you don't really give a fuck. You understand? So it's like you start to get comfortable, and then you don't really care like how people watch you or how people really think of you. So then now that's the freedom. And other people are going to be attracted to that in a sense of, man, I want to know how to be like that. Now you could pay it forward in a sense by either now hanging on to the fact that like you could just help somebody, or you can help us, like,
I'm leaving. I know, I texted you, I said okay. Sorry, bro. So
It's all good.
Yeah.
You can grab onto like being able to just help somebody, or you can benefit from helping us, like we are helping us now. But it's still you. The It has less to do with the actual music than the the culture itself, and how we live in our community, how we live in. We ain't have nothing to hide. What we got to hide? Like, why are we hiding right now? Like, why are we hiding? We just gotta live. Like, get money. Like, do what you gotta do. Then share the wealth. That's literally the American dream. And Caribbean people want to come to America, like, started from there. Because you know what it is that you looking forward. So start it from where you are. I think we've been in that, the other mentality for too long, So now it's like, with the music can really go from just this party music to a now you said something. You were talking about, if we would lose its if we would lose like the essence of it, or based on it being so dispersed, throughout, or being touchable, or being manipulatable.
Yeah, like essentially, would we now have to change the sound of soca music to make it more palatable for people outside of the culture to understand and to jive with and to resonate with and be popular?
Yeah, and that's just inevitable. Like, everybody does it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody do it. It's just R&B does work with. We got Bad Bunny, who's a freaking rapper from Puerto Rico, and he is the highest paid. And merengue and reggaeton and all those other, like Latin genres, they just doing them. And the big Afro is doing them. Yeah, we just gotta continue to do us. However, it is, again, like, what do you want? Do you want the fame? Do you want the acknowledgement? Do you want the recognition? Or do you want to just make music, be happy, and just, like, keep it for us, which is all cool too? But how do we still maintain and establish value within the source first? Because it start there. We can't look to go outside and charge, or like look to do these big things if it's just like, what are you doing for yourself now? So, to me, I feel like, with that being said, like, soca music to me is just on a path of, like, learning what it really would take to I feel like soca music and Afro and reggae are like, the music of the future.
Yeah, I always tell people, I'm like, it's really incredible to see the evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Afro beats, yes, but also soca music too. Like seeing what music sounded like 10, 15 years ago to what it
Mhm.
sounds like now.
Mhm.
The quality, the production, the creativity. And the same with Afrobeats, because I mean, if you go back and you listen to like Afrobeats from
Yeah.
like 2011, 2012, and they had their music even before that, you know, it wasn't what it sounds like now.
Mhm.
It's similar to soca, like it was enjoyed by the people and it was for the people, but it's kind of changed a little bit. But the productions have gotten like tighter and cleaner and so much more.
But okay,
Yeah.
and so with Afro music back in those times of like 11 and 12, like Devage and P Square and them, and what was the predominant sound that you heard from their music? Like, what was it that you heard sound wise in terms of like the overall, yeah, the overall sound of it? Like, did you know that it was Afro per se? Like, did you like what? Okay, what is like the predominant like overall sound that you took from it?
I mean, I'm not musically educated, so I'm not gonna get any of these sounds correct or instruments or anything. But there are like distinct elements that I can remember from back then to now that have kind of more or less stayed, I would say, pretty consistent.
Yeah.
So like part of it is, I would say, like the drums is one,
Mm-hmm.
and then also it just kind of had, I think, their keys.
Yeah.
The like for when I think of that dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun,
Yeah.
and the lyrics would just kind of flow very naturally with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just kind of like bouncy, kind of upbeat kind of sound to it.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to think of like if there's any specific songs from back then. I would probably say Noir.
Uh-huh.
And man, I think I first started listening to Afrobeats in like 2014.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to like same thing, like a lot of P Square, a lot of Pato Ranking. A couple other artists, WizKid. This was
Yeah.
before like WizKid was like
Yeah.
big WizKid.
Yeah.
Timaya, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, and the music back then still had that raw kind of rough feeling that genres have when they're making
Mhm.
music, but it's still like it just hasn't gotten to the caliber yet of like that
Mhm.
ultra clean production. But you're like, nah, bro, like this is
It's
really,
vibes.
this is
Yeah.
vibes. You know what I mean? It still has that little fuzz to it.
Yeah.
But now it's like, bro, it's just on another level now
Yeah.
with what they've done, like the sound, the music videos,
Yeah.
just the consumption behind it. It really has become such a global force. But I would still say, while there's different sounds to it now,
Yeah.
and compared to what it sounds like, you could listen. Someone who listened to a song 10 years ago, someone listens to a song now, could still be like, oh yeah, like this just sounds cleaner, but it still has those elements, which I think is like really cool.
Yeah, like they literally did the same thing how Soca doing. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Same shit. Same shit. Because at the end of the day, it's like, at them time, with it was a lot of like synths mixed with the drums, right? Or Oliva, dun, 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 dun. but just kind of Afro-centric, you understand? But these things are not necessarily African to say, well, but it is used in electronic music though. Electronic music, which now is like based on the technology, we were able to like really integrate certain sounds with our foundation. Afro did the same as doing that. The same way that soca music was always doing that. Right? What is the distinction? Like, what is the distinction? It's just the willingness to put yourself out there. That's it.
I think, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I think of Afrobeats and soca, man, I just feel like there's so many similarities in terms of like the journey,
Yeah.
you know, of where it was to where it is today and what it could be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They kind of mirror each other in like and it's really cool to see like how the elements of one go to the other.
Yeah.
You know, how like producers have been looking at Afrobeats and incorporating certain elements, and even on the other side, it's like I remember when I first started listening to Afrobeats, they didn't really use it, most of it was majority like their language, and like now they're getting like little words like gal wine up this that.
Yeah,
you know? I'm
yeah,
just like, yo,
yeah,
this didn't
yeah.
used to be in Afrobeats like a couple years, like, you know what I mean, like
yeah.
and just like just hearing how all of that stuff is kind of coming together is really cool.
They just do it good, but it's like it was always being done. That's what Afrobeat was intended to do.
Yeah.
That is the same thing that soca music is intended to do. They was always doing it. It's not like it just happened where they was like changing to. It was always changing. Always changing. Afrobeat started from, I mean, of course, like, you know, but like Fela Kuti is like the, you know, the main man who was like really on that type of Afro vibe. Fusing the jazz with the funk and the Afro drums and rhythm. That's what it's about. It's a fusion. Soca music is a fusion. That's what it's about. Men rapping on Afro beats. Men rapping on soca music. Then now it turned into singing. Because Calypso is also rapping. Now it's like it's turning into singing. Its evolution is always going to evolve. Always going to take on, like, Afro music and soca music is like, they just always going to take on a different level. You know? So that to me is the power that we have. We just will have to be aware of it, to me. Instead of looking at the others and just staying aware of certain things, we could definitely do something about it.
For sure, bro. Well, brother, we've been at it for now almost
Yeah.
a little bit over 3 hours, but I don't want to cut you short. Talk to me. Is there anything else, any other things you want to touch on before we wrap up or anything like that? I want to make sure you got to get your full, you know what I mean?
I mean, I'm just at a point where I'm open to more opportunities that will really just carry me on my desired path. You understand? Like, whatever that is, it, you know, I just would have to just continue to establish that within myself. And I'm at a point of, I mean, and that is just that's just gonna pour into my people, because that's what I'm doing, you know. And so whomever is my tribe, like, we just gonna change the world. I'm changing the world. I have to change myself, and then I'm able to change the world. And to me, I really like to empower us to do what we, you know what I'm saying? I really feel that. And so I personally have been working on um the fact that maybe we not all of us are on that same level right now. So I will just have to like keep going. That's what I've been working on. And so like being able to work on that, like I'm able to like share that vibes with, my colleagues, my peers and stuff like that. So I'm at a point of just really willing to learn and willing to teach and just make music, just create music, create opportunities, build platforms. Just really do big stuff for myself and for my community. So, man, anybody wanna holla at me? I am just I'm open to doing things that make sense, of course, and I'm always like putting myself in an energy where I can attract those quality opportunities. Everything is good. Everything is good opportunities. However, like just based on how things are, you're gonna, of course, like I said, make the decision to do this so that you can get to where you want to be, or continue on the path. So that's all it is. If we continue on that in that mindset, we will have more fun. Get back to the fun of what we're doing, rather than just like seeing creation as like what we have to do. It is what you're doing. Like, you're just creating all the time. That's what you're doing. Now we just gotta like do other things so that we supplement the passion, the fuel, ignite the fire, so to speak. So I'm saying, so like just be more open to other things that would really keep yourself interested. And I feel like within soca music, we just would need to open up our horizon, open up and be more multifaceted in terms of what we are really doing here. Be able to, again, just establish the worth and provide the opportunities, because it comes back to you. It comes back to you 100%. And how we've been doing it before, I feel like we just really, really need to change it up. So I'm here to change it up.
That's dope, bro. No,
Yeah.
and I think you have such a unique perspective on soca music, but also on a lot of other aspects of being a creative. And I mean, I just always remember talking to you like in the studio and stuff like that. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get out of here in like an hour, and it'll be like 4 hours later. I'm like, oh shit, we're still here talking, like just like now, like oh shit, like
Just like right now.
we
Yeah,
sat down,
yeah.
and then before I know, holy crap, it's been 3 hours and a half.
Man.
What?
Yeah, man.
But
Yeah.
I just think every time I get to connect with you, bro, like I always take away something that I didn't have before.
I told you, man, I needed to come here and to talk to you, bro. I was like really like saying like, yo, like, what Rich doing? Like, let me. And so I'm gonna tell you this, like, it was really because of my own taking the time to get to this point. You understand? I couldn't have come to Rich and talk to Rich anyhow, like, or I couldn't come on and like be in front of the camera anyhow. That's not happening no more. So now is the time. Now it's like, yeah, like this is it now, like, and you on the same vibe. So you can see that for yourself and really like, you know what? That's all we doing here, bro.
A lot of people, only a handful of people knows, our first podcast ever for this was actually like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
And we did a couple of them, and then I was like, I just didn't have the bandwidth to do it anymore, between this and all the other things we wanted to do at the time, YouTube, this, and I told Jell, like, not even really that long ago, maybe like last year, I told him, I was like, dude, I mean, we haven't put out anything from the Soca Analyst in years. Like, it's just there. Like, I think maybe we should just kind of dead it and, you know, tell people like, hey, it's been great, but like, you know, officially, I think we should say, because people kept asking me and Jell about it, like, hey, like, why is, like, you know what I mean? Like, don't let this, you know. And then we sat down for lunch one day, and I was like, you know, like, what component of this whole thing that I really like? And I was like, the thing I liked the most was the podcast, but I just didn't have the time to edit it.
Yeah.
And it just happened that, like, now we exist where, like, AI can do all the long form editing.
Yes.
I still have to do the little the bits and pieces, but I'm like,
you see?
But I'm like, and I'm also like mentally where I am too. Like, if I wanted to do this, my scope of vision would have been so.
But you could do it though. You know you could do it, but it's like with the AI, it's like, oh, this shit is so much easier. So why?
It was the long form thing that was like the big impediment, because I'm like, okay, if we record for 3 hours, I have to watch it back for 3 hours.
Right.
Where I'm like, I don't really need to do that anymore.
Telling you,
I just kind of have to, and the technology didn't exist then.
Yes.
But it was also my knowledge I didn't have the workflow that I have now. But I also, like, as a perspective now of how I see things, like how I'm like, dude, I just want to have you here, and I just want to just listen to you talk. Like, I didn't even really, I think, had that appreciation for knowledge like maybe 5-6 years ago. And now when I connect with people on this, and I'm like, yeah, like, no, I want to have Adrian Dutchin from Guyana on. I want to have Tamika Marshall. These other people. I want to have educators. I want to have all these different people. I don't want to just sit here and be like, hey, what are like your top 5 favorite soca songs from the year? I want to, you know what I mean? Like, I want to, like, and that's part of it too. Like, there's a whole episode me and Savannah have where we're like, we just want to talk about underrated soca songs, our favorites throughout the years, and get other people to send us theirs too. That's a whole other thing on its own. But then there's also like deeper things like this, where it's like what are people's unique perspectives on, based on what they've gone through, like on how they see things progressing for the genre and for Caribbean people in general. And I feel like every time I connect with you, like, you know, that's always something that we end up inevitably touching on, which is great.
Yeah, we always talking
you
about,
know, it's so critical, and
State of the Union.
and not, you're right, like not everybody will get that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I can put out lots of bits and pieces from this episode, and like I think like a select few people will really get it. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But then it could be something where it's like 6 years from now, people look back at this and they're like, oh my God, wait a minute, what? Like, these guys were talking about this stuff like from then, you know what I mean? And it's like they've already gotten to that point where like, oh wow, like, so this, people were concerned about this.
Or like, you know, people will see it now and they'll be like, oh shit, that was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why it's like the Soca Analyst was like, you know, so popular, because you guys were saying things that people,
dude, it was,
you know, was thinking.
I gotta tell you, I mean, I didn't put out, the only thing we existed on really was like Instagram, and there's the YouTube channel and stuff, you know. But when I made that first video, when me and Savannah did our podcast for the first like return after like 3-4 years, the page has been inactive. That first video that we put out was like the biggest video that we've ever had. And I just sat there dumbfounded, because I was like, how is it that we've done nothing for this long, and people still want to hear what we have to say? Because I didn't have faith in it, honestly. I was just doing it more so because I just wanted a medium to talk. And I was like, you know, if people listen, cool. But people don't listen, no problem. You know, at least I will have something to look back on for myself, and something, you know, it's always one of those things, create what you want to be seen.
Yep.
So it means a lot to hear from, especially from someone like yourself, bro, who's been in the music for so long, to hear that like this was something that you wanted to do and be a part of, and just sit down and talk, and you know what I mean.
It's
I'm just always so humbled by it, honestly, because
No, man,
I'm one of those people where, like, I don't think people would be very interested in what I have to say, but I just say these things because it's something that I would have liked to hear from somebody else.
that is the exchange.
You know.
That's the exchange. It's like the awareness of the fact that, maybe I may be internally, like, in the back of my mind, maybe thinking, am I making sense? Am I sounding good? Am I looking good? These types of things. People want to hear from me. Like, who am I? Like, just know that the other person on the other side is thinking the same shit. No matter who it is. No matter who it is, King. Just know, like, the other person is aware of all of their flaws, all of their strengths, all of their weaknesses. And they are doing their best to keep it together right now. So, you just gotta, like, continue to be yourself. And you now as a person that already has a certain type of knowledge of, certain information, now can ask the right questions. You can incite, you could, make persons say certain things that maybe they wouldn't have really said, in another setting. And I feel like that would, like, really set you, from the rest. You know what I mean? Like, what is it about us? Like, what's there to talk about for real? Not just the music, but we talking about soca. Like, what is the culture? What is the state of the union? How can we make these changes? Like, what's the issues? What's the problems? What's the solutions? Like, we can't just keep talking about the problems. We have to, like, start, like, circulating the energy, letting the energy flow a little bit, because if we talking about the problems all the time, then it's always just that. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not something that other people aren't thinking. Like, people are thinking about the problems. But you have a duty, or we have a duty, to come up with solutions based on our knowledge and information. You understand? Because you already know the problem. You already know the problem. So you could present what the issue is, and now here's a solution, people. This is how you could build a value. And you just giving out information. And it's mad information. And you could continue to just keep on saying that same shit. And it's content. I'm now realizing these things for myself. You understand? So, if we can, like, get to that level of, like, living within, with each other, I feel like we are getting to that. I feel like, we are realizing certain things and we're making certain changes. It's just gotta take time. And I can only say that because I'm doing that within myself. So I'm, what's on the outside of me is a reflection.
Wow, that's yeah.
Man.
It's a lot, you know what I mean? But actively looking for the solutions, actively talking about the solutions, bringing up potential problems that people may not have even thought about, looking for ways to work with other people on how to solve them. Those are all things that I'm always actively thinking about. Like the last the recording I did with Adrian was so funny because he had told me like just like about all these issues, and then I told him, I was like, bro, like have you ever thought about doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I kind of like know all the people to like do that if like that is something you ever wanted to do. I was like, what, coming to an event and stuff, and he was like, bro, I never thought about that. Like to me this was always such a daunting thing, but like when I hear it coming from you, I realize, wow, it may not actually be as crazy as it sounds. You know,
Literally what we're doing here, bro, is like,
yeah,
it's like you see somebody, you know, need some help, like before coming with the help. You can't worry about if that person is really going to. My thing is like, if we worry ourselves, like we can't expect for others to do how we do. Can't expect for others to do how you do. You just have to stay within your righteousness, do what you're doing. You will attract what you're supposed to attract. However it happens is like this life exchange. Like things just happen. Like so now that person will experience however that person have to experience based on how he or she was living. You are moving a certain way as well based on how you living and your morals and values. So you can't necessarily like stoop to anybody's level based on you know, any type of mindset that is lingering around, right? Being able to come up with a solution is literally a power, like, because everybody is in the problem, but coming up with solutions, like, wow, like, yeah, I want that. Now you could walk that person through it. Either you say go by so to do this, or come, let we do it together. You know, Adrian, like, you know, I feel like this is something I can help you with, you know. What's your budget? Like, you know, what are you really looking to do? Okay, and how can we like come up with a plan and a strategy for this to happen? And I feel like, you know, I could call this person to make this happen, and then we could get it done in this time. And I feel like you'll get a finished product by this time, and, you know, you'll be happy. Like, happy. Make a person feel like, yeah, like, rather than it's just this exchange of like a number or, yes, you know.
I mean, bro, he left that podcast episode like through the moon.
Yeah.
Like he got there, he was a little dejected, and then he left and he was like, bro, I'm just so hyped. Like, I think we could do, yeah, like, and I'm like, yeah.
That's it.
It was just a suggestion, you know what I mean? But
that's it.
So yeah,
that's it.
I have talks. I have talks with him about planned on trying to figure out what he wants to do for this thing, but you know, we'll see how that goes. But it was cool to kind of see the transformation of like, you know, this is how things are to, and I was like, hey, why don't we try approaching it from this way, a potential solution or suggestion, and being like, yo, what? Like, that's cool, you know, like seeing that switch in a person is dope, you know.
Facts.
And I think it's, as you said, we just need a little bit more of that. Yeah. You know, it's just and I feel like, yeah, like, you know, one of the big things is that people are like attached to their thing. So
yeah,
you can't always see out. I struggle with it. I can't always see outside myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes the solution could be so simple.
Yeah.
It could be like, well, Rich, why didn't you just call these people and have them do this, or like ask for help with this? And I was like, fuck.
That's the thing. That's the thing. The thing is, right? you would better be able to help others than you can help yourself. This is like this phenomena that, like, you know, human beings have developed within the world, right? If you can realize that in the process of you helping that other person, you are helping yourself majorly. You are like, you are doing what you are intended to do. It's just that now you guys gotta like do it for yourself, like give yourself a little self love now, dig. Then that opens up more vibes for you, more freedom for you, so you can feel like shit is not just like all like coming down. Then like when you can have this mindset, then the client can feel that vibe and just be more willing to work with you in the future. And maybe even, you know, not maybe, like you just have it in your mind like the next time is just more, is better and better. That's how you could really have fun in this. And then establish like other things that you want to have fun, you want to, you know, you want to go out to eat, you want to go do things with your family, you want to, so it's just like not compartmentalize it, but I mean prioritizing, and so you like you give that 100% in each aspect.
Oh man, that's what's up. Well, brother, almost at 4 hours. But
Yeah,
I want to say, man, no, thank you so much, man, for
Yeah.
taking the time to
I
come
enjoyed
through
it,
and
bro.
join me.
I enjoyed
Like
it.
literally, whenever I just talk with you, time literally just
I
flies,
enjoyed
bro.
it, bro. I enjoyed it.
And it's definitely not the last. You know, I plan to do more. Either with us one-on-one or maybe having other people on as
Absolutely.
well.
There's mad things I want to talk to you about, bro. Like I
Of
told
course.
you, it's like, again, I'm just saying it personally, like you're in a position to, you know, really be that assistance that you, or that change that you want to see. So like I got mad ideas. Like I'm just doing the same thing that you could do. Like you just like, you got ideas too. Like just put it into effect. The thing about it is quickly is that we don't necessarily have to do everything though. Like we could really just have the idea and get the help to make the idea come into effect. You just the creator. Like you don't have to be the creator and then the creation in a sense. You just creating every time. So from photography, if it's like, you know, get help. Even if you know it's 3,000 that you're about to make, share it. Then we just building. You're gonna see more of a value when you get that help, or if you just share. You know what I'm saying? Like you delegate, because you in a owner position.
100%, bro.
100%.
I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, my youth.
But before we wrap, bro, tell people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at IAMWILDXFIRE. I want to really just make it known that my name is WildxFire with an X in the middle. Please don't forget the X, because there's a million wildfires. Or it's like if you search, you're gonna see wildfire, like the actual wildfire. So my name is WildxFire with an X in the middle. That's a distinction that I made, maybe like 2 years ago or something like that. But anyway, I am WildxFire on Instagram, YouTube. I have a YouTube called Guided Med 777. It's a channel of like meditations, affirmations, just spirituality, just life and stuff like that. And Instagram as well, Guided Med 777, meds with a Z. And if you see me on the streets, just hail me. Any artist wants to do anything, you can either DM me or email me, book wildfiremusic@gmail.com. Remember, it's an X in the middle, so book wildfiremusic@gmail.com. We can work. I'm super duper open, and I'm really willing to help as well as create. So just be open. Let's just be open and just continue to work with each other on a vibes that's gonna be conducive to like happiness and freedom. That's what I'm about right now.
That's amazing, bro.
Yeah,
Vibes up, vibes up.
Vibes up.
Fire, it's been dope. Thank you so much again, bro, for sharing all the knowledge.
Yeah.
For sharing your perspective on everything.
Pick up yourself, Rich.
Oh no, that's no scene, bro. I appreciate it. As always, to our listeners, you can find us, Soca Analyst Podcast, the DSA Podcast on YouTube, Spotify. I am working very hard on getting it back on Apple Music. we lost some crucial login information from when that was made 10 years ago. So very soon you will get us on Apple Podcasts as well. But as always, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Big up and bless.
The Soca Analyst. Caribbean culture to the world. Subscribe now on YouTube, iTunes, podcasts, and Google Play Music.